Three, two, one.
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Harry?
Oh, man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Franchise Deep Dive with Jake and Josh, the podcast where we dissect, discuss, and break down all of your favorite and least favorite movie franchises. I'm Jake.
And I'm Josh, and I cannot wait to get to that quote.
I had a lot to choose from, but I felt like since this was probably the most memed one and the one that people talk about the most, that it worked.
Yeah, that shit stunk. But more on that when we get to 4.
Yeah. Oh, right.
So-
Because we have 3 movies to talk about today, unlike the last episode where we only covered Harry Potter 1 and 2. As we said in the last episode, guys, we're breaking the whole series up into 3 parts. So today we are covering Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, and Order of the Phoenix, all in one video. So stay tuned for this wild ride. But yeah, like how I like to kind of start off, I guess, all of these Harry Potter episodes is with what your kind of background is, especially with Prisoner of Azkaban, because I think Prisoner is the one maybe I have the most to say about. Not sure if you feel the same way about that, but yeah, I think I told a little bit last week about my experience with it as a kid, where my dad got an illegal DVD copy of it, and so which weirdly as a kid I remember adding to the creepiness, because I'll get into it later obviously, but I find this movie kind of scary at points. So but yeah, what is your relationship with it?
So I might have said last week a little bit. 3, I just don't remember watching that much as a kid. It wasn't until I was like an adult that I got into it a little bit more. But I remember 4. Like I had I just had more of a connection with 4, I guess. And I guess when you're younger and you maybe don't read the books, I know a lot of people that don't read the books love 4. So I think that might have played into it. I was kind of intrigued by the games, as everybody is. It's
even critically, it has like really good reviews.
Yeah, and I'm excited to kind of like mention that more when we get to it, because 4 is kind of like very loved by non-book readers, and I don't know if it's like universally disliked, but there's a lot of people that hate this movie too that love the books, and very good reasons why, I guess.
It's also interesting to point out that the 4th book is the first big jump in page count. The first 3 are all, I think, like 3-ish, 400 pages. And then the 4th one, Goblet of Fire, that's the first one that jumps to like, I think it's over 700 pages. Which is,
it's like almost 8, I think.
Yeah, which is crazy because I think that's longer than Dune. I think Dune is only like 600 pages. And that's like really dense sci-fi stuff. But yeah, what were we saying about 5?
5, I just never cared for when I was younger. Just didn't care for it.
Interesting.
You know what it was?
Yeah.
I remember the trailers for it, and the trailers really focused on the order, kind of like it. And when I was younger, I was kind of like more interested in like the action parts, the fun parts of it. And 5 takes a while to get there. Or at least from what I remembered as a kid, I was like, oh, this is kind of, I remember seeing Voldemort more in the trailers. I remember seeing him like kind of spew that fire out of his mouth. And I was like, okay, yeah. So, and I was like, and it comes in like the last 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, yeah. Well, so I didn't like 5 when I was younger. However, it did grow on me each time I watched it. So, 3, I don't really know why there was like a divide. Like I think I watched pieces of it. I don't even think I saw the whole thing until I was like a teenager. So it's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. We didn't own it. So we owned the first 2, and I can't remember how I saw the 4th one. So maybe my accessibility for it wasn't there, and I just didn't buy it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah,
I think I can kind of understand that too, because especially if you are a little bit on the younger side when these are coming out or when you're experiencing them or whatever, because the first 2, they capture that childlike wonder, they capture that whimsy, the real magical feel, and even for, to an extent, I'm not going to say it's whimsical because it's very clearly much darker in tone and style, but for at least, and you said it earlier, how you ask a lot of people and this is like their favorite one and favorite book, and the easy answer why is the tournament. Everybody focuses on the tournament, and I think conceptually that tournament is really cool, and obviously we'll get into that with Goblet of Fire, but it's the one Harry Potter movie I feel like out of all of them where you can point to the plot, or at least inherently like the concept of the plot, as like being the most enticing, because every other one, it kind of follows this formula of like a mystery is set up and you got to uncover this mystery. And while Goblet of Fire does have that, and we'll break into it, overall it's the one that I guess again has the most enticing sounding plot, like, oh, a wizard tournament, like you get to see all these cool students compete, and
and you get different schools, you get like an introduction to more wizarding schools, so you're like, okay, it's definitely
the world
more of
a
an
little bit.
action paced premise.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's because as we mentioned, we have 3 movies to talk about on this podcast. So why don't we crack into the first one we will be discussing? Obviously, that is Prisoner of Azkaban. I also would like to apologize to any listeners if I sound a little low energy this episode. It's been a very long week, the longest work week I've had in a long time. Multiple 12-hour days, I think I hit over 110,000 steps over the course of 3 days. Took a lot.
Hell.
Yeah, it was like 40,000, and then 38,000. It was a lot. It was a really long.
Man's walking 20 miles a day. My goodness.
It kicked my ass, I won't lie. And then, as I mentioned to Josh before the podcast, I drove down to visit my friends in Philadelphia yesterday. And when you visit your college friends, you drink. And so then you wake up the next day a little hungover, and then you still have to drive 2 hours back to your own apartment. And still watch Order of the Phoenix too. So, but I wanted to not only apologize, but also it kind of goes into leading. But before I get into that, I guess fully, we'll talk about the. So as we mentioned, I think in last week's episode, there's 4 directors total in the 8 core Harry Potter films. That being, of course, Christopher Columbus, who handled the first 2, Mike Newell, who directs the 4th film, and David Yates, who directs 5 through 8. And, of course, bringing us to Alfonso Cuarón, who definitely, out of the 4, the strangest name on the list. Like, it's one of those is not like the other, and it's Alfonso Cuarón. You may have heard of him as he's the director of films like Gravity and Children of Men. So very, very highly critically acclaimed films. And this film came out, I believe, in 2004. So 2 years after the release of Chamber of Secrets. And bringing back to what I was talking about earlier, this was after I decided to watch this movie after one of my 12-hour shifts. So I got home at 4 a.m. and 4 a.m., 12-hour shift, and was like so unexcited to watch this movie. Because this is one of those, and this will happen, guys, if you ever, do a podcast format where you talk about movies. There's going to be scenarios where you have to force yourself to watch the movies. It's not always a pleasant experience. Me and Josh didn't particularly want to watch 4 Halloween Town movies in 1 week, but we did. We did that for you guys. But then this movie started, and within 5 minutes, it woke me up. Because this movie is fucking awesome.
Movie's got style.
This
movie's got a hell of a lot of style.
Dumbledore got style.
Yep.
No, Prisoner of Azkaban. If you were someone who listened to last week's episode, I went pretty hard on Chamber of Secrets. Now, I did give it a positive score. But if you want to hear me, as the kids say, glaze Harry Potter, it's going to start with this one. Because I really, really love the first one. But a lot of my love for that, it is really cool, the sets and a lot of the cool production choices, and it's a great introduction to the world. But Prisoner of Azkaban, this is the one, guys. This is the one. This is the one where if I had someone who I didn't think would like Harry Potter at all, I was like, just watch Prisoner of Azkaban. Because it is that fucking good. And I'll give it away to Josh a little bit, but this movie is fucking incredible, start to finish.
So let me say something interesting. I like how in this 3-part little series we're doing, the first episode has the same directors for both, and
Yes.
our last one is going to have the same director. This is the only one that not only has different directors, but it's a different director for each one. So and it's so this is going to be fun because I think the direction in this one compared to the fourth one is like the best one to talk to because they're right next to each other, and I think it's like the biggest difference in just like class. I don't know. I think it's like night and day difference
in the way that one is well directed and the other's not. But yes, I agree.
So, and I'm so glad that they got someone that's actually like kind of like an more of the artsy kind of director. It's a very odd choice that they picked. I don't know who he was up against. I know we said who was up for like the first one and second, or just first one. There was a laundry list of them. So I wonder like who was in the running for this. And I wonder what made them choose Alfonso. They obviously made the right choice.
Well, I didn't mention it in last week's episode, but I had stumbled across a trivia fact that we did talk about as Josh mentioned, the laundry list of directors that were almost helming the first Harry Potter film. And as we mentioned, Columbus ended up doing Chamber of Secrets. But I did find a funny piece of trivia that said that initially they wanted, I believe, and I'll have to look it up at some point when I have a second, but I think they offered Warwick Davis the opportunity to direct Chamber of Secrets, but he said, quote, "I had no interest."
Really?
Yes. Professor, what's his name? Finnick? Is that it?
Is it it's not Flitwick, is it? It's something like that.
Can I just say, I hate the names that J.K. Rowling. We talked about it a little bit last week with naming your evil dark Nazi wizard Tom Marvolo Riddle, but the names she chooses are so awful. They're not real names, and they don't even sound like real wizard names.
You don't like Victor Crumb?
No, I don't. It's a crummy name.
Well, all right. So kind of back to this. I do have a couple like questions about some directing choices, but in terms of visually directing, this one takes the cake. And I think that's where Jake's love comes from. I think this guy can forgive any kind of plot holes that might be in this movie because of how good of the cinematography is in this movie. But yeah, so this is the first shift into like a very silvery blue palette from that warmth. And apparently something that isn't in the books that I liked is the ice that he kind of incorporated in this. Apparently they just talk about it getting cold when Dementor is around. But he utilizes, obviously you can't really say that in the movie, so he kind of utilizes the ice as like a visual. And I think that makes it really stand out in terms of like its visuals. There's a lot of really his camera work in this too. Like
it's incredible.
It's a lot of long takes, I think, like throughout, which is very interesting because I can't remember if the first and second one had camera work like that.
No, not at all. I really there's a couple shots in both the first and the second film that they're great. I talked about how one of my favorite shots in the entire franchise is in the first film when the boats are arriving at Hogwarts, and it does this really gorgeous crane up shot. And you do get a couple of those throughout the first two where it's a nice crane shot, or they do a decent zoom, or a dolly. Actually, I'm not even sure if they use dollies, but the way that Cuarón shot this movie with just the fluidity of the camera movement in so many of the shots that you wouldn't even think would need it, but it just had so much style and substance to the scenes. And you brought up long takes, and I think one of the best looking and best blocked scenes maybe in the entire franchise, in fact I'd go on record and say it is when Arthur approaches Harry about telling him about Sirius Black. and it starts out in this sort of kitchen area, and you have all these extras interacting with each other, the rest of the Weasleys, the housemaids, and they're all sitting down and plates are being served. Meanwhile, and that's all happening in the background, because meanwhile in the foreground you have Harry and Arthur, who Arthur is telling Harry about Sirius Black and how whatever he hears, don't go looking for Sirius, and it kind of sets up this layer of mystery. You're told that Sirius Black is the first person ever to escape from Azkaban, which, as we see in this movie, is basically super prison. Like it's this giant gray monstrosity inside of the ocean. Like it's in the middle of the ocean, and it's just swarming with Dementors. And so you find out Sirius Black is the first person to ever escape. So it adds this it like heightens the stakes immediately. And my God, just again, the way that the scene is blocked along with the camera movement is incredible. And something I've always loved is as Harry and Arthur move throughout the scene, they constantly are passing Sirius Black's mugshot on the wall. And just something I've always has been ingrained in my brain since I was a child is, I mentioned how I love in the Harry Potter world last episode that when you see pictures in the newspaper or photos, they're always moving. And so his mugshot isn't just Sirius Black, it's like looking ahead, he's like screaming into the camera. And there was something always just really unsettling and disturbing about it. And as a kid, I didn't know who Gary Oldman was, so I just watched it. And when you're a kid, it's almost like there aren't actors, they're just characters. And so Sirius Black, to me, when I was a kid, was just so scary. And we didn't really talk about the new cast members added to the film, but before I get into that, I wanted to mention, you were asking what the director list for this movie looked like, and I gotta say the alternates were pretty fucking good, because there's three or four names, but the first being one Guillermo del Toro was approached to direct it, which would have been awesome. I mean, I love how this movie's directed. Alfonso was the perfect choice, but Guillermo's my boy. Love Pan's Labyrinth. But he said that he did not want to do it because the first films were too bright and happy and full of light. So that's why Guillermo did not direct it. Mark Forster turned down the film because he had just made Finding Neverland and did not want to direct kid actors again.
Can I guess one?
Yeah.
Oh wait, you're gonna say M. Night Shyamalan, but
sure. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan was considered, but he turned it down because he wanted to make The Village, which is a bad movie.
I'm trying to think of like more like fantasy directors. Like Guillermo would have been a good, because like him and Alfonso have a similar style, but like when you watch this, you can kind of get a few Del Toro vibes from it.
Yeah, no, so, this film is definitely, it leans a lot more into the horror elements than the first two movies do, and Guillermo is so great with horror and monster designs. It would have been really cool to see what he did with the Dementors. I think that would have been awesome. But there is actually one more, and I'd love for you to guess it. I'll give you a hint. All right. They were an actor in one of the last two movies.
Oh, okay, so it's not Tim Burton. All right.
I don't want to see a Tim Burton movie, Tim Burton Harry Potter movie. My hot take is Tim Burton is one of the most overrated directors.
Oh, I can ride that train with you.
Thank you.
Let me see. Oh, I really hope McGonagall.
That'd be great. Her old ass walking around directing.
Oh,
Mr. Radcliffe, do this.
It was an actor in the previous two.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Gilderoy?
It was. Kenneth
Nice.
Branagh was approached to direct the film. Let me see. I don't know if it says... No, it doesn't say why Gilderoy... Gilroy. It doesn't say why Kenneth Branagh. Also, a woman director, Callie Corey, who I have not heard of. Oh, she wrote Thelma and Louise.
Okay. All right.
That's an interesting choice. But ultimately, again, Guillermo would have been cool. At that time, maybe M. Night could have been cool. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think yeah. But either way, I think Alfonso Cuarón was the perfect choice. And So yeah, going back to the actors, we had already just mentioned Sirius Black is played by veteran Hollywood actor Gary Oldman, who you guys will probably know as Commissioner Gordon from the Dark Knight trilogy, as well as other movies like After Hours. He's in After Hours, right?
Is he?
That's him. Doesn't he play?
I still gotta see. I still have to see it.
I think that's him.
Oh.
But either way, yeah, no, on top of that, you also get, and maybe my favorite addition, and don't get me wrong, love Gary Oldman, but David Thewlis as Professor Lupin is not only one of my favorite casting choices, but just one of my favorite characters in this entire franchise. I think he adds so much to this movie in so many scenes and in so many different facets, but I'm curious how you feel about Lupin and David Thewlis playing him.
Oh no, yeah, I like Lupin a lot. I was gonna go back to like kind of like the direction portion because you highlighted a scene. I was trying to like watch some like breakdowns and stuff like that, and I saw that one highlighted a lot. And something they kind of highlighted was also the blocking of like the lighting too. How it takes you through like a bright kind of area, and it brings you through that like hallway, and then it ends on like a dimly lit scene where it's kind of like talking about Harry's danger and that he's kind of like the target for murder. And it kind of ends on that of like Harry's expression of like, why would I go looking for someone who wants to kill me? But it's it's very textured, that whole scene. Like you said, like they have like all the like kind of the magic in the background, but it just adds layers to it. And but couple scenes that were interesting to me were with Lupin and Harry. They have they have a couple really nice scenes that kind of build a lot more emotion in this movie. The first one in that long bridge where Harry
the bridge scene.
I think it's during Christmas break where he's kind of like at the school alone and he's having this like heart to heart with Lupin. And the way it's blocked is, they're kind of like just standing kind of over the ledge, just like leaning over, and they're kind of like divided by like one of the pillars. And Lupin is kind of talking about his relationship to his parents and kind of alludes to him being an outcast and having these struggles. And when he does that, he walks away with his back turned. And then it ends with them kind of like reconnecting. The camera, it's all one shot again. It moves in on them, and it goes in closer to them when they kind of like have that connecting, like they're friends kind of thing. But there's still like that divide between them with that bar that's kind of like just dividing like the frame. But they have a similar one when he's teaching him how to do the Patronus with Harry doing the same thing.
Also an excellent scene.
Yeah, he's talking about the happiest memory he can conjure up. And it's kind of sad because it has Harry thinking about his family that he never knew, and it's blocked very similarly. Where once Harry starts talking about that, something that's like kind of sad, he walks away from Lupin. Don't know why I said Lewis. And his back is turned to him, and it kind of ends with them sitting on the step together when there's that connection built again. So just like consistency with this guy, he's very attentive to these details of blocking, and it really just adds to a very nicely directed film. And when you see scenes like that, they kind of mirror each other, similar kind of like emotion going on in the scene, and you kind of direct it the same way, you frame it the same way. I don't know. It's really nice. It tells me that you're actually like being attentive to what you're doing and not just kind of like, I don't know, kind of cheaply just shooting the camera at a scene,
Yeah, and exactly to go off of what you just said, there's something about the way, and not only the way that the scenes are shot, but like you said, the blocking that just adds this extra layer of detail to this film. Because I mentioned there are really great, I'm not saying the first two films are bad looking by any stretch, but when it comes to the actual, even if you give those movies the credit of being very well framed and there being some decent camera movements, like the crane up shot of the boats, and just other, shots sporadically throughout the films. But no, there's something to the blocking in the scene where it felt like, not to throw any shade at Chris Columbus, but it felt like in the first two films, most of his work came with just giving the actors direction and letting the camera do the storytelling and letting the writing do its thing. Whereas in this film, you have all of that still working in tandem together, but the way that he has the actors move throughout the scene. And one thing that I love that you didn't mention about the bridge scene with Harry and Lupin is this is to me the film where Daniel Radcliffe, sure, he has some weaker moments and we'll talk about it, but this is where I feel like Daniel as an actor really comes into his own and starts to really develop the chops to handle. And a lot of his best acting in the movie doesn't even necessarily come with his dialogue delivery, but just his reactions, which I always feel is a severely underrated part of an actor's performance. Is it's not always just about line delivery, because yeah, a line can be delivered great, but if the character who's receiving that line, if they don't have a great reaction to it, the proper reaction, it completely ruins the scene. And I love when Lupin starts talking about Harry's mom and dad, and there's a lot in this film about making Harry feel alone and by himself, and a lot of that it goes into the shots and the blocking. You have a great shot when the kids go off to Hogsmeade and Harry never got his permission slip signed, and so he can't go, so he's the only kid that doesn't get to go. And so they do this great wide shot that kind of pans out of the clock tower of Harry by himself, and it's really sad and really effective just from a visual standpoint. And that's why I think also that the relationship between Harry and Lupin in this film is incredible and really well handled, not only because David Thewlis and Radcliffe just have really great on-screen chemistry, but there's that scene where they're talking and he says something about Harry, about how he's more like his parents than he knows. And Harry just does this little smile, and it really kind of hits you emotionally, because it's just, all this kid has ever wanted was to know his parents and to experience his parents, and nobody ever really talks about his parents except for him. It's always just very sad. And so to have this character finally divulging this information, like, I knew your parents and I loved them and you are so much like them. And Harry just doesn't say anything. He just smiles, and it just adds so much to the scene. And it's just a really great little detail. And like you said, you add in that blocking to where that whole little smile doesn't work if it's not blocked the way it is, because it's at a time when Lupin, his back is facing Harry. Harry's just looking out over the bridge, and they're not close together. And then he says that, and then as the conversation starts to progress, like you said, they come together, and you land on that final shot of the two of them together. And it's just, like you said, it's the consistency of it. And you said something that made me want to highlight another element of the visual style in this movie, but you brought up how a lot of the scenes mirror each other. And what I love about this movie is, in a similar kind of way to The Matrix, there's a very clear attention to using mirrors and glass and reflection in this movie. We talked about how there's these amazing camera movements, these great grand sweeping and swooping camera movements, and a lot of the time Cuarón chooses to shoot it in the most creative way possible and have the camera move through glass or go through a mirror. And I think obviously specifically of the boggart scene, the scene where Professor Lupin is teaching a Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and he's teaching the kids how to fight a boggart, which is a creature that assumes the shape of whatever you fear the most. And so you get a couple little funny little bits where, Ron's biggest fear is a spider, and Neville's biggest fear is Professor Snape, which I think is hilarious, because props to Alan Rickman. He plays such a serious, evil-esque character in these movies, but then you have him turn into start wearing grandma clothes, because what Lupin does is he teaches them the spell Ridiculous, which turns the boggart into something funny, because the only way to defeat a boggart is through laughter. But to start out that scene, you get this reflection shot, and you're focused on a mirror, and you see Lupin standing in front of all the students, and you're like, oh, that's a cool looking frame shot. And then it moves towards the mirror, and you're like, oh, what's going on here? And then it goes through the mirror, lands on the students, goes around, kind of does a 180, and now you're behind the students. And again, I'm just glazing this movie at this point, but Yeah, any other like shots or like specifically directed scenes that you wanted to highlight in that sort of sense?
Yes, there are. Quickly, when you were talking about Harry's isolation, there's another nice shot when Hagrid is talking about Buckbeak's sentenced to death. They're going to execute him, and it's blocked where Harry's off on one side and Ron and Hermione are off on the other, and they kind of play on that in the Hogsmeade as scene as well, where Harry's with them, he has the cloak, and then the next shot he's not with them. It's kind of like, but I thought that was a really nice touch just to have him when it's like, I think the last shot, well, even when it's showing Hagrid, you just see Harry on the left side and them too. Just a nice detail. But one thing I wanted to highlight, you talked about glass, I wanted to talk about clocks because time is a big centerpiece of this. And I absolutely love. I didn't remember how many times we go through gears and we go through a clock shot or just focus on just like that. Like you are aware that you're kind of that clocks are being utilized, but you don't know why until later on in the film. So just very nice foreshadowing as well, but just nice push-ins inside the gears, going through it, and then you go through the glass. Like those are just really nice looking. But it's not just like glam. Like it has purpose. It has like this foreshadowing, as I said. So all those clock shots are just really nice. A
lot of thematic relevance in the visuals.
Yes. And just one last thing is I feel like these movies sometimes have a hard time with just pacing the school year properly. It's very difficult, and all these films are gonna kind of be at that kind of criticism. But I like that Alfonso uses the Whomping Willow again, foreshadowing, because that is kind of where part of the climax is. So he uses the Whomping Willow as like a way to kind of change the seasons. It's a nice visual, but kind of keeps you on like up to date of like where they are throughout the school year. But like I said, you get to that at the end where they go kind of in under the Whomping Willow and it leads them to the Shrieking Shack, which the Shrieking Shack I love. I didn't know like how they built it. I guess they built it being slanted.
Yeah, the production design is insane.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. It always looked very off. We didn't know why, but that was a very nice detail I saw too.
It's so crazy because I don't know why. This is just me again pointing out how when you watch something with the intention to discuss it in a podcast format, you pick up on things that this is a movie. If you guys don't know, if you can't tell how much I love this film, this is the only Harry Potter film that I will watch out of order. I will sometimes when I'm feeling a little down, I will throw on Sorcerer's Stone, but that's the first one. But if I'm going to watch the Harry Potter movies, it's usually in a binge format. I'm going to watch all of them. But this is the only one. Prisoner of Azkaban is the only Harry Potter film I will just throw on at random times just because I want to experience the movie again. So I've seen this film way more than probably the rest of them. I never even noticed that, like, when they're in the Shrieking Shack, and I do want to talk about that because I think this time around I realize I think the Shrieking Shack scene. Oh God!
Oh, that's good.
Shrieking Shack scene. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with that. I think it's the best scene in the franchise. I think I think it is the best directed and best acted scene in the entire franchise. But in terms of like the production and set design, this is the first time I realized that the shack, like, it's actually shrieking. Like the walls are moving and you can hear like a noise. Like it's really cool, and it adds, and maybe it's because this is the only time I've ever watched it with like headphones on. I watched it at 4 a.m. So I had my AirPods on, watched it on my big TV, and it just sucks you in. And one thing that the direction and blocking and cinematography do so well in this film is not only is it thematically relevant and is it just nice to look at on a pure, visualization level, but it adds so much atmosphere to every scene, whether it's the Dementors showing up for the first time on the train, and like Josh pointed out, how they showcase the mood changing by anytime there's like glass or they show plants or whatever. they freeze over, and so you get that ice, and immediately you know that just something is different. And they do that a couple of times, and it's always great. And I always just loved too how they implement the Dementors in this film, clearly from the get-go showcasing how just scary and threatening they are, and they're always just lurking around the castle. They do a couple shots throughout the film where they're used as sort of transitionary shots between scenes, but they'll just cut to outside the castle and they'll just show the Dementors floating around, and it's really creepy. But before we even get to the Shrieking Shack scene, I want to highlight something that I think is another reason why I think this film is the best out of all of them, and it's not just the direction, it's not just the cinematography, because I don't know if I think you might have said this before the podcast, but it is easy to just kind of fall in love with the cinematic aspects of this movie, and you can tend to overlook maybe some of the minor details that definitely detract from the film's quality, which we could definitely talk about. But this film, I think, balances tone better than any of the other movies, because I think the first two, I get it, they were based on, children's books, and they're definitely the lighter books in the series. However, they're definitely a little too light and childlike at times, I feel like, which kind of undercuts. I never feel in the first two movies that any of our characters are in any real danger.
Not even in the second one.
No, not really. I don't know. I just, even when I was a kid, I never felt that sense of threat. And obviously as a kid, like, the movies kind of scared me with the spiders and the giant snake and everything. Mm-hmm. But it just never, this was the first one I remember watching where it genuinely felt like bad things could happen. Like, there was a real threat. And a lot of that is introducing Sirius Black as this, mass murderer, this killer who was betrayed Harry's father and was, destroyed this character that you hear about, Peter Pettigrew, and like unleashing that, and you never know where Sirius Black is, and he's the first person to ever break out of Azkaban, and you also have the Dementors floating around, and there's just so much threatening shit going on in this movie, and there is a lot of scary stuff and a lot of more serious elements. The kiss of death is horrifying when you see it. It looks really, really unsettling, but you know what? This movie's also fucking hilarious. This is probably the funniest Harry Potter movie, in my opinion. I think,
which is funny because the fourth one is where they clearly are trying to like go the comedy route, which is weird. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Mike Newell.
One thing, and I think it lends to, again, just the craft of this movie, is a severely underrated aspect of comedy, especially in film, but in general, is timing. The stand-up comics always talk about how you can tell the best joke in the world, but people aren't going to laugh if you don't have proper comedic timing. Mm-hmm. And there is we've highlighted all the other technical aspects, but one thing we didn't really talk about is the editing in this movie. And there is such a crispness and fluidity to the editing in this movie that really helps the jokes. And in the fourth movie, which we'll talk about, a little later, there's not that crispness, there's not that fine-tuned editing, and so a lot of the jokes, they do fall flat. Like, there's just jokes in this one that are so simple. Like, I've always found it hilarious when, right before Harry leaves his room after he runs away, he goes to the minister or whatever, and he's staying in this room, and right before he leaves, the housekeeping lady, she opens, says, she knocks on the door and says, "Housekeeping," opens, and the door swings open, and this giant, like, you don't see it, but you hear this creature roar, and like this gust of wind hits her, and the door shuts, and she goes, "I'll come back later." And I've always just found that so funny, and like just other stuff, like Cornelius Fudge's assistant, he like, something happens or something is said and he starts laughing, and he has this hilarious laugh, and it's like a and then Fudge just looks at him and he immediately stops laughing and just like lowers his head, and it's a little silly, but it's funny.
So who was the guy who was like that assistant guy?
I forget his name because they recast him in the later movies and he doesn't look like that. He just looks like a normal person.
So the funny part for me there is Fudge, just his reaction. But in the fourth one, the funny part would be that guy just like doing that like laugh, which that kind of like, I don't know. But it's kind of like that reaction from Fudge that I think is a little funnier. It's a little there's subtlety to it.
Again, yeah, it's the reactions to it, and just little, and like whereas I don't know, maybe this makes me a hypocrite, maybe it makes me inconsistent, but whereas certain scenes in the second one that I complained about as feeling kind of useless and pointless to the overall story and atmosphere of the film, they work for me in this one. And I will say it, I know you're gonna hate me for it, I think the length, it helps. This is 30 minutes shorter. This is a 30-minute shorter film.
It is not.
Half hour.
It is not.
Josh, it is 2 hours and 11 minutes on Peacock. Chamber of Secrets is 2 hours
that
and
is
41
Peacock.
minutes.
No.
I know you think it's 2.5 hours because that's what it says on Google.
No, it's 220. 220.
It's not.
I'm on IMDb right now. 222.
Okay, but on Peacock, there's not anything missing. There's no missing scenes. In fact, there's extra scenes, and it's 2 hours and 11.
Well, I think it's a credits thing. I think that is a credits thing.
Okay, then no, I don't care about credits. But credits, I don't watch credits unless it's like there's a post-credit scene. Okay, credits, this is not my thing. But this movie, it not only is shorter significantly, it feels shorter, and I think it's because, like you said, they do a much better job in this one of handling the progression of the school year. And there's just such a snappiness to the overall plot. And I said, like, again, the editing helps a lot with that. But the movie just, again, from the opening scene, it just moves at a really quick pace. But, like, whereas in the first two movies, I do find, the Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia and Dudley stuff to be a little too long and unnecessary. I think it's hilarious in this movie. I think it works in this one more because I also enjoy that this is the first time we see Harry have some agency and just kind of say, fuck you, Uncle Vernon. Like, I could kill you right now in this house with my wand, and just leaves.
Does Harry get beat? He probably does, right?
Not after he gets like wizard powers.
No, but like growing
that.
Up, does he get beat?
Yeah, they probably smacked him around a little.
Yeah, I never feel like they actually like truly beat him the way they're like I'm probably supposed to believe, because like
I thought you were about to say they never beat him the way I think they should.
No. I guarantee you, Jake.
No,
I guarantee you.
Yeah.
If this movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes, but it still had that glossiness to it, that beautiful crisp look, you would not be saying anything about it.
No, I agree. I mean, it would still be a better movie. I think Alfonso Cuarón is a better director than Columbus, but
yeah, same.
You know what? I don't live in a what if world, Josh. I live in this one. So in this world, this movie is significantly shorter. It's a lot snappier, and the only reason I had brought up like unnecessary scenes is it has nothing to do with anything. But there's a short little scene where after they had arrived at Hogwarts, Harry and some other Gryffindors, they're taking these little candies that give them animal sounding noises, like when they open their mouth. Like Neville takes one that makes him sound like an elephant, and Ron takes one where he growls like a tiger, and then whatever one Harry takes, it makes his like ears blow out steam. I don't know, I just find that it's stupid, but it's kind of fun, and I don't know, I enjoyed it.
Is it possible, because I don't know if you like picked up on as many extended scenes in this.
No, not nearly as much as the first two.
So could that be also a time thing? Like I think there was more extended stuff that just made those longer. But like in the theatrical cuts, I don't know how long the theatrical cuts are.
Those I think the theatrical cuts are still at the least 20 minutes longer. And that's nothing to scoff at. 20 minutes is a significant, like there's a difference between an hour and 40 movie and like a 2 hour film.
I'm not going to spend time arguing it because I think this was better than the first two, but
yeah.
So let's try to get to like some possible issues in the story that might kind of like affect this. Not too much, but it might.
Okay. Well, I mean inherently, and this is like a given, but the time turner.
You do have a problem with that.
No, okay, so this is where it's tough to talk about a movie in a sense of inherently we're going to try to talk about this in each of these movies as if the next one doesn't exist yet. And I looked into this, and it's not explained in the book. In fact, J.K. Rowling doubled down. I don't know if you've ever read or looked into the plot of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Oh, God.
Which, according to her, is canon.
I don't want to talk about that. My God. Maybe another day.
This is an issue that, I have with J.K. Rowling, where just admit you made a stupid mistake and move on. Not everybody expects you to be a perfect writer. It's fine. But the time turner. So like Josh said, time has a very important place in this movie. They spend a lot of time talking about time, and also like literally there's lines of dialogue where I think Sirius says that it's not fair to Harry that he got to spend so much time with Harry's parents and Harry so little. They constantly talk about time. Josh talked about the cinematography and the production design and how they use shots of clocks a lot of the time. No pun intended there. But they introduce the time turner. So all throughout the film, they keep throwing in this little plot detail where Harry and Ron will be in a class and Hermione will just pop up, and it's not subtle. It's very obvious. She does pop up, and every time she does, they're just like, "Where did you come from?" And they do this like 3 or 4 times. So I think maybe if they didn't do it as much, it would have worked a little better. So that is something I do take a little bit of issue with.
Those parts do take me out a little bit because it's just Ron doing it.
Yeah,
but it's
did not a single person.
Yeah, it's never addressed. Yeah,
But all J.K. Rowling. Okay, so we didn't really say it, but basically it's introduced in this film that there is a device called a time turner that allows you to travel back in time, and it is for some reason Dumbledore in all his wisdom thought that giving a time travel device to a 13-year-old was a good idea.
It's McGonagall, right? But I guess it has to get approved by Dumbledore.
Oh, okay, yeah. Either way, even then, very irresponsible.
Yeah.
But it allows Hermione to double up on her classes and to take more classes because, of course, Hermione would use time travel to do more schoolwork. But that aside, it is introduced in the film.
That's some
point.
Dylan shit right there. Some Dylan Halloween Town shit.
Yeah. Oh my God! The Halloween Town movies and Harry Potter movies have so many similarities. It's honestly kind of crazy. Even like Calabar is like Snape, right? He had a thing for the kid's mom. He's evil. But yeah, no, when it comes to the time travel in this movie, I don't actually have a lot of issues with it because unlike a movie like Avengers Endgame, which goes out of its way to explain time travel and then doesn't follow its own rules, they don't really establish the rules of time travel in Prisoner of Azkaban. All they really tell you is you can't interact with your previous self. I don't know. They don't tell you what would happen, but I guess if you read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, you find out what would happen if you change time too much.
Yeah, but you can't go back like more than 5 hours or something. I forget if they say that in the third one.
There's no rules.
Okay.
And that's what I was going to say is all J.K. Rowling had to do is after that book, or hey, maybe write it into the book, but just say, yeah, you can only go back a certain amount of time because then it alleviates. And again, this is where I don't have an issue in this movie, but then I'm like, okay, so if they had a time turner, then in the last 2 movies, really there was no stakes, right? Because they could have just went back in time and saved Harry, or they could have went back in time and
it goes out of the window. No one knows what happens to it. I guess they just decide this is too dangerous to keep in the hands of students. Let's lock this away. Have something that it tells me why I don't see this time turner, and it's not even a fault of this movie. It's just a fault of the series. Of like
exactly, and like I said, I think the time travel in this movie works fine. Nothing about it feels illogical. Like I mean, time travel inherently doesn't make any sense and couldn't possibly exist. Yeah. But
we could go like on and on talking about this loop because like that, it never made sense to me. But like you're always gonna have problems with time travel. But let's talk about it for a second. Where like because I was trying to look at this up and so many people just say different things. They said something about like the what is it, the bootstrap paradox, something like that there aren't multiple timelines. It's like a fixed timeline or something, and that's why this works, but it still doesn't really add up to me. When does this It's so Buckbeak never, like, there's not a timeline or there's not a universe where he gets executed and there's not one where Sirius gets killed. Where does it begin of like the object getting thrown at Harry's head? Like, where does that timeline start? You know, like
and it's one, the more you start to think about, you're like, it really, and I love so much about this movie, but I hate thinking about the time travel because
Yeah.
it inherently is like, all right, I guess the only thing is, because the big question is, okay, well, why did no one ever use a time turner and just go back and kill Voldemort as a kid, right? So that's like a big thing. And I guess the only thing is the way that it's shown in the film is that you can't get back to the present because Harry and Hermione, right, they don't really, it's not like they go into the past, change something, and then go back to the present.
Mm-hmm.
They just relive all of that again up to the point where they disappeared.
Yeah.
So if you were the one to go back and kill Voldemort, you would just, I guess, be stuck back in time and would have no way of getting back. But I don't know. You couldn't have one person be like the sacrifice.
Why like so? But they again, they don't explain it to you. So as a viewer, you're like, okay, why not just kind of like prevent Peter Pettigrew from like going back into rat form? Like what?
Yeah.
Because that's not that big of a thing. You're not like going back and doing something crazy like killing Voldemort. You're kind of just preventing him from escaping. Mm-hmm. So why is it like save Buckbeak and save Sirius are the only two things you're allowed to do, and everything else would just cause too many damages? It just leaves so many questions.
Yeah,
like,
Hermione even says bad things have happened to wizards who mess with time, Harry. And it's like, but that's what you're doing right now.
Why is what you're doing okay enough, but the other things are not? So it just, and it sucks because
it's a little too convenient.
Because this movie is so good that I hate, like, I don't hate that the time turner's in it, but I kind of do. I hate that this one had to have the time turner in it because time, like messing with time is always going to create like holes. And I really didn't want this movie to have those.
No, I know. It's like, why did it's the one that Corone had to be the time travel one.
Yeah.
But I will say though, logic aside, it does add some illogical aspects to the plot. But my God, is it entertaining and thrilling?
Oh yeah,
because
100%.
the third act of this movie is spectacular, and I guess that could bring us full circle. Unless you know, I don't have many negatives in this movie. I think time travel.
I have a couple nitpick things.
Yeah, go for it. I'd love to rebuttal.
Well, you know what? I have a little note here. This is going to take a second. When Harry, when his broom shatters after the Quidditch game, we didn't talk about the Quidditch game. That was less than 2 minutes. I timed it. That was like a minute 45.
Me too, because I wanted to be like, hey, Josh, this is how you do a Quidditch scene in a sequel.
Oh no, it's the best Quidditch scene. But
dude, it's. Oh, did you know that the person who gets electrocuted, that's Cedric Diggory?
Is really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that when we get to the next
They hadn't cast Batman as him yet, but that in the books the Quidditch seeker for Hufflepuff is Cedric Diggory, which I wish maybe they could have mentioned that in Goblet, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But yeah, what other issues?
Well, let's just the setting for this is insane. To the point where I'm like, do they ever cancel a Quidditch game and just reschedule it for another weekend? Like
never.
Like my God, it's like that was just bonkers to me. But anyway, when do you draw a line of like just stupidity and just like, hey, let's just wait for that snitch to come down? You're going up into the heavens to get this thing. You know, I don't know. But
he's putting his body on the line, putting the team on the back.
But it's a great looking scene, and it's not really a problem. But his broom breaks, and you're telling me you can't mend that broom? Madame Pomfrey can mend bones. She can grow bones back, but you can't fix a broom? Are you out of your mind? I don't know.
Yeah, wait. It doesn't even. Okay, well the only reason they like destroy his broom is so at the end of the movie Sirius can gift him another broom.
He's without a broom. I never even thought about
that. Literally in the last movie, the woman is Madame Pomfrey. She does say, I can mend bones, but you can't fix a wooden broom.
Yeah, that was wild to me. Just leave this kid without a broom the whole movie. Whatever. I guess because I think that just creates. That just kind of like. That's like a plot thing that like a plot convenience that like, oh, not that I know what he would use his broom for. I also don't like that that this cloak just doesn't get used when it should. You know, if being seen is such an issue, get the cloak and then do time travel. This would make the mission so much easier if you didn't have to hide.
Oh shit!
Wait,
I never thought of that.
Just get the damn cloak and put it on. Like,
I guess maybe they didn't have time.
It's used in Hogsmeade. Like, which I just
I
like.
do actually have a small issue. I noticed a little bit of more bad ADR in this movie, and it's
really?
when Fred and George grab Harry when he's trying to sneak out with the cloak. They just have like a couple lines of Daniel Radcliffe being like, "Guys, stop, please, come on, let me go," and it was so clearly recorded in like a sound booth and like added in post, but it's not a crazy.
You brought me to one of my bigger things, and I know this isn't like supposed to be book to movie. I know we're trying to like not do that. However, I'm going to do it a lot in the next one. But awesome. I just hate that they didn't give you anything with the Marauders in this. You like that. This movie does so much work on detail, and like just to not give anything, you have no idea what that is, and. So some of the character choices we talked about, the time turner, that's a big fault. Like these people, to give Hermione this I mean there's like a bunch of time turners in the Department of Mysteries. I think they set, well, they don't say, I think that's just like canon, but they just give this insanely powerful device for Hermione so she could do schoolwork. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Like that's I don't know, that really annoyed
it's irresponsible
me. But watching this, I forgot how Fred and George get it, because I was like, why is this map in their hands? They say that they take it from Filch's desk, which I don't know. That seems like, why isn't this thing locked up? Maybe they don't know how it works, but they get it. They get it, right? How the fuck do they know how to use it? Who teaches them how this map works? So
I never thought of that.
So like just things like that. This movie is like pitch perfect on like every technical aspect, and it's actually really good story wise, but there's just some things that do like make you question. It's like, this movie's so good at this, how did this kind of slip through? I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because when rewatching this movie, I had that kind of realization where I'm watching it, and one criticism that I actually saw that people have of this movie is they always say Harry has absolutely no reason to believe that the person in the forest was his dad. But in the book, it is explained that he knows that his dad's Patronus thing is a stag, right? It's the deer, stag, whatever it's called. But in the movie, that's never conveyed, right? And I guess through like context clues, you can kind of figure out, like, because they do talk about, and it's, you know,
it's visual,
Moony,
right?
Moon.
He said it looked like him, like he saw his dad's face.
He said he saw his dad, but like I think the way, maybe it's because the way the shot plays out, it's you cannot see who's there.
Yeah, I wanted to say this guy can see something I can't see. There's a bright light kind of like engulfing this person, like
it's like a silhouette.
But you're because I saw someone say, how does Harry not hear himself screaming this Patronus? And someone commented saying, well, when you're getting your soul sucked out, I doubt you hear it. But I'm like, okay, but how are you seeing that clearly also if your soul's getting sucked out? But whatever, that's like a...
And also throughout the movie, he constantly hears someone screaming anytime he gets attacked by a Dementor. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you're kind of... But yeah, it was while watching this movie where I realized, I had just assumed that the stuff with the Marauders, which is... You find out... Because when you open the Marauders map, it's Messrs. Moony, which is Remus Lupin. Mm-hmm. Moon, he's a werewolf, which we didn't really talk about, but I guess we should. Padfoot, which is Sirius Black, because he turns into a dog. Prongs, which is... Harry's dad, and Padfoot, not Padfoot, Wormtail, which is Peter Pettigrew. So you find out these are like the four friends, and they had this map and whatnot, but it's never really explained in the movie. Harry in the film should have no reason to believe that his dad was a marauder, right? He might not even know. In the movie, it's never really clear, but you constantly hear and you see these names pop up throughout the thing, and the whole friendship dynamic between Wormtail, Harry's dad, Remus, and Sirius is like a very pivotal part of the movie, that it does feel like some of the book details that got glossed over would have helped with just the information being a little more clear. And I realized while watching it, I was like, oh, I only know all of this stuff about the Marauders because I've seen this movie a lot of times. I've read the book, and I've, been down the rabbit hole of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this, but the most common request, like fan request for a new Harry Potter project is they want to see a Marauders story.
Yeah. Everyone loves it.
I would love a mini series of just young Snape getting bullied for 8 episodes. I think that would be awesome.
That's another thing. When Snape catches him in the hallway,
yeah.
Snape knows that they're like their names, they're Animagus names, right? Because they're like in flashbacks, they're calling each other that in front of Snape. So he knows this. So when he reads it, does that not like I don't know. I'm kind of just wondering, did he not pick up on that?
She made it up as she went, man.
Wow.
She made it up as she went.
But
which is funny again, because I think I mentioned last episode, apparently J.K. Rowling told Alan Rickman how Snape's character, his story would play out.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's not a chance. Maybe she had Snape's stuff, because books and movies, I think Snape is a very well handled character. So maybe she did plan that stuff.
I'm sure she had some stuff she knew how it was going to end, but like a lot of the like small details kind of went as she went.
In terms of negatives, I guess, I think the one line where, first off, I love the entire night bus sequence. I think it's so wildly entertaining.
That's fine. That never did anything for me. Like, no, it didn't.
Dude, when he goes, "Take it away, Ernie." Dude, it's so fun. And I love the bus guy too. He's I don't know, it's just the way he looks and the way he acts, and he's got this very specific British accent that I think works well for the scene. But I do want to point out a negative, and because he's like, "You've never heard of Sirius Black?" And then Harry's like, "No, I haven't." and this guy is like, "He was a loyal defender of you know who." And Harry goes, "Yeah, him I've heard of." And I just think that was a really bad line delivery on Daniel's part. And I guess if we're getting into bad line deliveries,
throw it out there.
Okay, since we are at the hour mark, I have one more negative in terms of Harry, and then I just want to highlight one more thing about the movie, and then I think my notes are done, and whatever you want to say, you could say. But no, when it comes to, see, I already just lost my thought. What was I going to talk about?
Delivery.
Delivery, yes. Okay, so the most memed moment in this movie, the one where people kind of point to Daniel Radcliffe's acting chops maybe not being exactly where they need to be, is after he finds out, he eavesdrops on a couple professors discussing Sirius Black, which is when he finds out that Sirius Black was not only his father's best friend, but is Harry's godfather, and supposedly betrayed Harry's parents, told Voldemort where they were, and in the process also completely, in the words of Fudge, destroyed Peter Pettigrew, leaving only a finger left. And Harry gets all upset, gets all angry, runs away. Ron and Hermione see the footprints, because he's wearing the invisibility cloak, and they approach him in the forest, and it's very well shot. Like, it's a beautiful looking scene. The snow looks amazing. The shot composition is great. One thing I didn't mention, but I think this also has the best color correction in any of the movies. From 4 on, one of my biggest issues is they get quote unquote visually darker, and people tend to like that. But a lot of the times they start to look like muddy water was run through.
Yeah, because in the Great Hall, there's still warmth in these scenes. Like, they know when to turn on those cold scenes. It's not just like, hey, let's dial all these temperatures down to cold. No, it's doing it tastefully.
This film feels like it just had darker lighting and a darker color contrast, whereas it still had color. Whereas pretty much 4 through 8, they are just very desaturated and very gray. Like, there's not much diversity in the color palette, and it just looks kind of ugly. I don't know. But we'll get into that. But I love the color correction in this movie. But the scene, they approach Harry, and you hear him crying, and Hermione pulls off the invisibility cloak. And as Josh loves to point out, he's been crying, but there's not a single tear on Daniel's face. and he just has a very corny delivery. And this is a scene where I like a lot of the music in this movie, but the music in this scene just doesn't work for me, and it makes it feel a little too cheesy and overly dramatic. But Harry, he goes, "He was their friend," and then I like his second line after that, where he's like, "I hope he finds me, because when he does, I'm gonna kill him." But the way that I like that line, but the way that Daniel delivers it, it's a 13-year-old trying to be like dark and edgy, and it doesn't work. And the music is too corny, and it makes the whole scene feel really off.
You know what's weird is that scene is like I think it's not good at all. His delivery when he says like, well, first his crying, there's no crying, it's just sounds. Yeah. These like fake sounds. I don't know. But I don't even think his delivery is bad when he says, "I hope he finds me, because when he does, I'm going to be ready." Just that. But when he just like doubles down and says, "When he does, I'm going to kill him," that was not good. But like the line before, I don't think was bad at all. Because I don't know.
I do love though when Harry does see Sirius. Again, we talked about in the first movie how that's the only real like physical fight, but Harry straight up tries to choke Sirius to death. Also, Sirius, I know you just got out of prison. You're probably not very well nourished, but you just got taken down by a 13-year-old.
Wait, does he?
You need to.
He doesn't try to choke him.
Dude, yeah.
He just puts a wand.
God, he does.
He just puts a wand at him.
Harry?
Yeah.
No, Harry like grabs Sirius and like throws him to the ground and like starts trying to choke him.
I remember seeing a wand on Sirius's face when he's on the ground.
And
he says, "You're gonna kill me, Harry." Because he can talk perfectly well. He's not like getting choked when he delivers that line.
Oh, I thought he was.
Maybe I gotta rewatch it. I don't know.
My memory's fading. I love how neither of us are ever confident. We're always just like, no, we're probably the wrong one.
It's a lot,
but no,
there's a lot of scene details to keep in track. Like when you're doing 3 of these movies.
Oh my god, yeah. No, but that kind of leads perfectly into my last note, because I brought it up earlier, but I didn't really get to talk about it. But I think the Shrieking Shack scene is the best scene in the entire franchise, at least the best out of the 5 that we've watched so far, solely because the acting is off of the charts. And this is where it comes to it almost acts out like a scene in a stage play, where there's nothing really crazy action-wise happening. It's just Alan Rickman, Gary Oldman, and David Thewlis, 3 phenomenal actors, just acting their fucking asses off. And it's just nothing feels like it's too much. It never feels like it overstays its welcome. Their little monologues never feel overbearing. It's just all of the dialogue and the performances and the way Cuarón blocks and shoots the scene. It just works so perfectly. The drama is there, the intensity is there, and of course you have, like we said, the awesome set of the Shrieking Shack in the background. As like the drama's heightening, you get that little screech in the background. You see the walls moving, they're expanding and congesting. It's just absolutely magnificent.
So where I agree with pretty much everything you just said, there's one thing that just bothers me throughout this movie, and really in the Shrieking Shack thing, is just kind of the logistics of it, of like, it's kind of like there's this mystery just to have mystery, just for the twist kind of thing. I don't know why they're being so vague with Harry.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah,
that does bother me. It doesn't really take away from the scene too much, but when I look at it from like a script point, I'm like, this seems kind of like doing it just to kind of just shock me a little bit more, because like, I don't know, like they're saying let's kill him. He thinks you're talking about him. I mean, Harry's about to kill you. Like, come on, man.
Even Lupin, he doesn't say no, Harry, he's not trying to kill you. He says, oh wait, no. He gives the wand to Sirius, and he's like, wait, Harry has a reason to know why.
Yeah, it's like it is to the last second, and I'm just like, you guys wouldn't do this. Like, come on, you guys love Harry, especially Sirius.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. I don't know.
I do. To your point, though, I will say what I do like about that scene is if you do pay close attention specifically to Gary Oldman's performance, where his eye line is and where he points when he says, let's kill him, it is at Ron's rat.
No, yeah, he is not looking at Harry. Like, it's not that bad, but just him as a character, I think they would have already kind of, said this info. I don't want to dwell on it because we are an hour 10 now, but I heard
Jinkies.
that Alfonso had the trio write an essay on their character or something like that, just to kind of
Ooh.
get like, I don't know if it was to get like him a better idea of like how they, just maybe to help direct them. But I heard Ron didn't write it. I might have to look at that a little bit more because once I saw that, I just kind of kept watching the video.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But I wonder if because he didn't do it, that's why Ron is very weak in this movie. He's almost nothing in this movie.
Well, I would like to throw this out there. I think Ron is a bad character in every one of these movies. I think Ron is a bad character.
But I think he's better. He's a little stronger of a character in the books.
Which I've heard, because there's a specific scene in this movie that people use to compare book Ron and film Ron, and it's when Snape snaps at Hermione for talking out of turn because he didn't call on her. She answers the question, and in the book, apparently Ron backs her up and says, "Well, you asked her. Like, why would you ask her if you didn't want?" Or he says, "You asked. Why wouldn't you want her to answer?" And in the movie, he goes after Hermione.
Yeah.
Like Snape says something like she's a know-it-all, and Ron's like, he has a point.
Yeah.
When is Ron ever gonna side with Snape? I know he gets annoyed by Hermione, but it's just they make his character such a bumbling asshole.
He's just there for like comedy or just being scared shitless. And there's another scene in the book, I think, where he like has the broken leg, but he still stands up to like defend Harry. It's like I forget what scene it is exactly, but there's none of that. There's nothing Ron gets.
I think
in this movie.
I think it's in the Shrieking Shack. I think he backs, like he stands in front of Harry when he thinks that Sirius is gonna kill him.
Yeah, something like that. There's just nothing. All he's doing is whining in this movie, and like, I don't know. Even in the, I don't know. There's a lot of that, and Ron is very weak, and I wouldn't expect that in this because I think Harry and Hermione are very well written for the most part. I don't know.
I do like the one scene with Ron though, where I guess he does kind of hype up Hermione. It's after she punches Draco in the face, and she's like, "That felt good," and he says, "Good is brilliant."
Yeah, he has one.
I like that.
His one little part.
I know. Ron is a weak aspect, but I think where Ron fails in this movie, that's why I think this movie works so well is all the some of the characters are a little weaker. I didn't really talk about it, but I guess, and people are gonna fucking hate me for it because now he also has passed away. This time around, I really solidified on my opinion that I much prefer Richard Harris as Dumbledore than Michael Gambon, which I think Michael Gambon is great. It's just he's a little too sassy. Like I wrote in my notes like, "Ooh, Dumbledore is sassy in this movie."
Wait, you don't think Richard Harris is sassy?
He's sassy in like a powerful way. I think Dumbledore in this and preceding movies he's like sassy in like a different way. I don't know. It just doesn't land for me as well.
So okay, so we can kind of lead this in because I have a lot of problems with Dumbledore in the fourth one, but the third one I don't. I will always be torn between Richard Harris and is it Gambit or Gambon? Like
I don't know actually.
Between Richard Harris and Michael Gambon, they just bring just these different levels of Dumbledore. I wish Michael kind of had that twinkle that Richard has, but he kind of has it in this one. There's like a couple moments where he's like, well, first off, I think they're both sassy. I think Richard Harris is very sassy. I think but I don't know.
He feels more wise and majestic.
But this Dumbledore, he doesn't feel as aggressive as he does in the next one. He still has this kind of twinkly delivery when he's like he's like mysterious, which kind of like can be annoying a little bit when he's doing the time turner when he's giving them instructions, but
it's like after they're successful and they're like, "We did it," and he's like, "Did what?" and then just walks away.
Well, yeah, but then he says good night with a little smile. I actually like that. But
I do dislike when he gives them the time turner, because at first it's like subtle. He's just like, "You know what to do, Hermione," and then he's like, it goes into like a whole like little monologue about like all the things they need to do.
So I think it could be directing, because I think directing in the next one is just why he doesn't work. But I think he's better in the later ones. I think like he's very different in some of these. But we can kind of let that be our segue into 4, into the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. It's not. I'm not
ahead.
even gonna like go into detail. I just wanted to highlight because we didn't really talk about it. I thought the special effects in this movie looked really, really good. I thought for being 2004, I think the Lupin transformation worked really well for me. Even Sirius, when he's the CGI dog, I thought looked pretty good. There wasn't any scenes where either of those CGI characters, when they were interacting with real world characters, where it looked fake or didn't look authentic. And again, I think a lot of that is just lighting. The textures look really good though. But yeah, that's really it. Fucking awesome movie. Loved it. I didn't mention it, but I did say how tired I was when I watched it, and it did wake me up. I got done with the movie at like 5:30, 5:40ish in the morning, and I was still wide awake because the movie it was so enthralling. And also, I know Josh hates it, but the freeze frame final shot is
hate that.
awesome.
Hate that.
And I love it.
So weird. So weird.
It is so out of place for Harry Potter, but it's so fun and cheeky that I enjoy it. And I love Alfonso. You're the man. And I wish that you did all of these movies, but here we are.
Imagine that world.
Shall we get on to Goblet of Fire?
We shall.
All right, guys, moving on to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which, of course, is the 4th film in the Harry Potter franchise. Unfortunately, our boy Alfonso Cuarón did not come back. His original plan, actually, was since this book, Goblet of Fire, is the first book in the series to jump in page count. I think we mentioned the first couple were only 300 to 400 pages, and the 4th book, Goblet of Fire, jumps to over 700, almost 800. Originally, Alfonso Cuarón wanted to split the movie into 2 parts, so do a part 1 and part 2. And I think with how much they do try to cram into this film, I think that actually would have been really cool to see it done in 2 parts. And I think I kind of know probably where they would have ended part 1. But instead, we get Mike Newell taking over the director's chair, who I haven't really seen any of his other films, but his most notable work is the black comedy, what is it called? 4 Weddings and a Funeral, the British version. There's an American remake, but he did the British version. So I guess maybe they tasked him because he did have a little bit of work with ensemble casts. But I also, I feel like I mentioned in the first episode of our Harry Potter series that Mike Newell was actually one of the options for taking over Sorcerer's Stone. So he was one of the original candidates, so he does get to come back and direct this 4th film.
Thank God
But
he only got 1 movie.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I do not like this movie. I'm going to go as far as to say I'm not going to say this is a bad movie. But this is not a good movie.
This is tough because this is really tough. Like I said, I used to love this one. The more I watched it as I got older, just the more issues I found. Reading the book did not help, and I really try to separate that. But really, this one is glaring, and I think the more I learned about the director, it really put a bad taste in my mouth because this guy absolutely refused to read the books. This guy, he refused to watch any of the movies prior.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, he did not watch any of them. He did not read. I think he tried to read, and he said it's too long. It's too much. It's like too. Like this guy didn't know anything.
What?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know this?
I had no idea.
That is why there's
why
so
would
many.
you do that?
Yeah, there's so many weird choices in this movie. There's like a lot of things that just don't seem right, and that he just doesn't understand the characters apparently. But I think I saw this video where Alfonso was trying to just get him to watch the first 40 minutes of his film to try to get where the previous one went, where he was trying to take it. Because Mike Newell, which I guess he did watch a little bit of it, just because he was asked to. But Mike Newell, he said I want to bring I want to bring a darkness to this because he knew the first and second, I guess because they were just children's books to start. He didn't see them, but then he saw Alfonso's and he was like, oh, Alfonso already did that. Okay. So his whole goal was just to compete with these directors and one up them. It was not to work off them. It was not to kind of piggyback off of what they, not even piggyback, but just kind of connect it and have something be cohesive. This guy was just trying to better everybody. and that's why he was like, oh, I wanted to do it darker, but Alfonso already did that, so that's why he went more comedy with it, but still had it like a dark feel to it.
Yeah.
That's why this is very imbalanced. Like, this guy had no vision at all, and
it's a very tonally inconsistent movie.
And it sucks because this one could have been really good. Like, the book, I think the book is really good. I think this is a favorite book for a lot of people. But I get you have to cut a lot of things out. The stuff they cut out, I'm fine with some of the stuff. The stuff they don't have in this movie is weird compared to like what they do have, and the stuff they add that's not needed. Like one being the first task. In the book, it's just confined in the stadium, and it's not drawn out. This goes on for like how long? Like 5 minutes maybe after they get out of the stadium. The dragon chase.
The dragon stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
so
needed.
I know one big difference too is that in the book, apparently I don't know if you just said this, sorry, but they don't leave the stadium.
Right.
In the book, they just fly around, which it makes more sense because I don't know if we've said this yet, but being a spectator at the Triwizard tournament is probably the worst and most boring sporting event that you could ever possibly go to, because 2 out of the 3, you're just sitting there waiting to see who wins at the end.
Okay. Oh, man.
People go underwater for an hour and then they go into a fucking maze.
Dude, this runtime's gonna be long. This episode's gonna be long because I feel like I have so many notes to just talk about.
Dude, let's dig into it. Let's dig into it. I do want to say I forgot, guys. I'm sorry. I do want to always highlight this when it comes to talking about the backstory of these movies. But I didn't mention Prisoner of Azkaban, $130 million budget, made $807.8 million at the global box office. This film, $150 million and $897.5 at the box office. So still, we're 4 movies in, and only the first movie was the only one to cross the $1 billion mark, which I do find kind of interesting because it's not... Typically, the movies, especially if they're well received, like the Harry Potter movies are, typically the movies make more money as they go along.
Especially with inflation, like money's just, the dollar amount's just going to be up. So it's just crazy.
Exactly. So I do find it weird that I actually don't think 2, 3, or 4 have crossed 900 mil. So not even close to reaching $1 billion. But so let's break into this movie. I want to talk about, I guess... Well, let's just set the stage because I guess we didn't really set the plot up for Prisoner of Azkaban. We did talk about it loosely, but essentially Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is a very different Harry Potter film in the sense that so much of the plot revolves around what is known as the Triwizard Tournament. And they say the specific amount of time, but it's a tournament of wizards that is held every X amount of years in which these 3 schools, Hogwarts, Durstrom Academy, and why can't I remember what the French girls are called?
Beauxbaton,
Durstrom, and Hogwarts. And a champion from each school is selected by all of the students who are of a specific age, that being 17 years or older, put their name in the goblet, and 1 from each school is selected to compete in this Triwizard tournament. So which is a little cool. It is. You do get a little bit of cool world building because, again, you do get to see other magical schools and what their students are like. Didn't seem like a lot of students.
Okay.
So
yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Is this just...
There was like 30
is this
on each side?
Like, I was like, okay, maybe it's just the senior class that can compete. That's what I thought. But I was like, who's running that school? Because their headmaster's with them. Do they just go a whole school year having a substitute headmaster? I guess so, but... Okay.
But yeah, so anyway...
Yeah.
Cedric Diggory, who I mentioned, is sort of in Prisoner of Azkaban. This time, played by Robert Pattinson, his name is selected, so he is Hogwarts champion. Victor Crumb, who we meet at the beginning of the film, sort of is told to us is the greatest professional seeker. He plays for the Bulgarian team. Now, mind you, he's still a student. So this would be like the best NFL player or the best NBA player being a 17-year-old, right?
Makes no sense.
And then this other girl, why can't I remember her name?
Fleur Delacour.
Fleur Delacour. Fleur Delacour is the chosen champion for their school. But after the 3 champions are selected, a 4th name appears out of the goblet. That is, of course, Harry Potter, who is only 14 at the time. Nobody knows how his name got into the cup. Nobody knows why the cup chose a 4th champion. So there is a little bit of a layer of mystery, but most of the film follows this plot of Harry and the other 3 champions competing in 3 separate tasks. The first being collecting a golden egg that is being guarded by a large dragon. The second is having to rescue a loved one or companion from the Black Lake. I think that's what they call it, the Black Lake, right?
I think, yeah.
Dark Lake, something like that. The lake outside of Hogwarts. Each of them gets a person taken from them, and they have to save them. So they have to figure out how to breathe underwater for an hour. And the third and final task is going into this maze, this crazy, ever-changing maze in which at the end of the maze, there is the cup, the triwizard cup, and whoever gets to the cup first wins. So those are the 3 contests. So now that we have the stage set, there's so much I do not like about this movie.
Let's just start in the intro, the setup. I mean, you finally got what you wanted. It kind of like, it's different now. You're not getting the Dursley intro, but for some reason it doesn't really it feels off. And I think it's just because all right, so pacing I'm going to talk about in this movie, because everything is rushed or just drawn out, and I can't tell like what they're trying to like, I can't tell the pace they're trying to like keep in this movie. So like the intro, they build this World Cup kind of setting, and I don't know why. I'm fine if you take it out, because I don't even think you need it in there. You spend like what, five minutes maybe at the World Cup, maybe more, and then once the match starts, it cuts to them celebrating the win.
It's longer. It's probably closer to 10 to 12 minutes before you get to the actual match starting.
Yeah.
Because the movie starts out with a nightmare scene, right? And this is where you hear Voldemort. You see this character who we're not supposed to know who he is yet, and you see Wormtail. And this old muggle housekeeper, whatever, goes to check on this light disturbance that he sees. He thinks it's like kids being rambunctious, I guess, and he gets murdered, and and Harry wakes up. So it's shown that Harry saw this happen in his dream, and you wake up, and I don't know where exactly they are to start, but either way, the Weasleys,
they're in the Burrow. They're in Ron's place.
They're in the Burrow.
Yeah.
They're in the Burrow, and then the Weasleys, the Weasleys, Harry and Hermione, they go and they meet up with Cedric Diggory and his father, and then they go to this boot, which is a port key, which teleports them to the World Cup stadium.
Just a random boot on a hill. Just a random boot on a. Don't know who put it there. Is it always a port key? Is it just?
I feel like port keys would have been really useful in the last 3 movies in multiple different areas. Whatever. Okay. But yeah, so you have all of that, and it sets you up, and you're like, and the entrance is awesome. I love the way the World Quidditch Cup looks. The set is massive. Tons of extras. I'm sure they CGI'd a fair amount of them, but the setting is really cool. I love the little moment when the Weasleys, they walk into what looks like a small tent made for one person, and when they walk inside of it, it's this gigantic tent inside, and Harry just has this little moment where he smiles and says, "I love magic."
Awful.
Which I do like that, because I like that. I do, because I do think that, especially after this movie, they really start to lose any sense of whimsy and magic, like in terms of like how I feel like experiencing the movies. But there is that moment where it's like, I like that 4 years into learning magic, and there's still stuff that Harry is finding endearing and cool about magic.
I think it's a weird line. I think it's thrown in there. I think it's very on the nose, and I think that just goes off of like, I mean, I know the director didn't write it, but like, I don't know. It just felt off. There's so many like dialogue choices and just character choices, how they're written, that just feel off. And that just felt like an awkward, forced line. I don't know if it was supposed to be like I don't know what it was supposed to make me feel like.
That's fair.
I don't know.
I guess maybe I like the context more than how it's delivered. But But either way, you get to the Quidditch scene. You have a little altercation with the Malfoys, which I do find the blocking weird in it, because the whole idea of the Malfoys is they think they're above and superior than, they're more superior than other wizards, especially the Weasleys. But the way that scene is shot and framed, the Weasleys are high up.
Yeah.
And they're looking down on the Malfoys. And it just feels tonally off in terms of what they're trying to go for in that scene. But regardless, like Josh said, you get to the Quidditch scene, and you have this scene where Fudge gives this speech, and he puts the wand to his neck, and it turns it into like a giant microphone or whatever. And so it propels his voice. And you get the Irish team coming out, and they form this giant firework looking design in the sky, and then the Bulgarians just bust through it, and the Bulgarian music starts playing. And I do like that, and I was like, you always get really excited and you're really hype, and then it just cuts, and the game's, and you don't get to see any of the Quidditch match. So like, why did we just spend all this time getting to this one point just to not even showcase the scene, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is because the whole point of putting us at not the Triwizard, but the whole point of putting us at the Quidditch World Cup is so that after it, the Death Eaters can attack. And Death Eaters, I don't think this is a crazy notion, but very KKK inspired.
Yeah, and they cut that shit off as soon as the fifth one hit. Yeah, I think a lot of people were just it was very off-putting to a lot of people, which is, I think, why they changed it. But yeah, just like black cloaks and long black hoods. I'm like, all right, like, could you just like do your own thing without being so
their design isn't amazing. I do not as much anymore, but I remember watching Goblet of Fire as a kid a lot and finding that scene scary. I think it was just a lot to do with the music. I think the music is very ominous and haunting, and you just see these like scary looking dudes walking around like setting everything on fire, but it doesn't land as an adult watching it. It doesn't really hit.
It could have, if they just like, I know
if it was shot and edited better, I think it would have worked.
Yes, edited, because
there's a lot of
it's
quick cuts. There's a lot of like weird off-putting quick cuts. The shots don't last the length that they should. They're everything happens too fast, and it doesn't feel like it's an intentional creative decision to make things feel chaotic. It just kind of feels poorly done.
Does everybody die, or do they just escape from it? Like, because it just cuts to ashes and just empty.
Yeah.
So does everyone? I don't know what happens to people.
Couldn't tell you.
You get nothing. So this whole intro is just very rushed, and it just, I don't know. It's there. I get it's hard to say take your time with this, because this is an 800-page book crammed into 2.5 hours, but pick and choose what you want to like focus on, and just focus on it. Don't just give me tidbits of stuff and then spend like a couple minutes there just to cut to like the next scene, just to, I don't know. It's just like, it's just weird.
You kind of hit the nail on the head. And I do remember while watching this the other day, feeling like the pacing was off, but I never really kind of put two and two together. But what you said is exactly kind of my sentiment, which is the scenes either last too long and are drawn out, or they're too short and they aren't given enough time to breathe. And very rarely in this film do they ever find that sweet spot where a scene lasts as long as it should. And again, it goes back to like what I mentioned about Prisoner of Azkaban, where there is such a crispness to the editing. And sure, the shots in that movie are great, but the way it's edited just makes all the scenes flow and bleed into each other so purposefully. But I guess I want to also, I wrote down on my notes, Lucius is so openly evil that it bothers me. Like there's zero subtlety to his character at all. So when one of the reveals happens at the end of the movie, you're like, oh geez, who saw that coming? It's so in your face. And I get it, again, sort of kids books, but if this is going to be the one where quote unquote people say it gets really mature and dark, I don't know about that. But yeah.
So I think it does, because I mean it does in parts. Like you said, the third one is when you actually felt like these kids were actually in danger. This one actually like puts them in like they kind of like tell you students have died in this tournament. So you already have that assumption. Okay, I'm like I've taken like a step darker than even the third one, even though the third one is creepier. Mm-hmm. The themes feels like it's still kind of like the third one does a really nice balance of keeping that that warmth from the beginning ones, but also really kind of like 80% scary. But this one,
it's
kind of
dark,
just like,
but it's light when it needs to be.
And that's the weird thing, because this one, the guy wanted to be dark with it, but then he decided, oh, this guy was already dark with it, so I'm going to throw comedy in this one. So you're just throwing comedy in this movie that you're trying to make more mature. Mm-hmm. And I get like they're 14, like they're kind of like some of that stuff might sound like it's needed. Like there's a lot of sexual stuff in this that's weird. Very weird.
You let me know when you're done, because I'm gonna go in on that.
Oh, I listed a few things. Okay, so
yeah.
They bring the schools in. There's a shot of the Bobat girls' asses that Ron's staring at.
Dude, that was so weird.
It's just odd. It's like,
I literally wrote in my notes, I don't need ass shots in my Harry Potter movie. That's exactly what I wrote.
But the worst is probably Moaning Myrtle, right? That's got to be the worst. Like
trying to look at Harry's dick?
Yes, just the like
what
blatant
the
sexual assault. And I think
they're 14.
In the book, it's like, way different. I think it's way different. But
that's another one of my notes. I was like, why is Moaning Myrtle trying to look at a 14-year-old's dick?
Yeah, and it's just you don't need it. And this stuff isn't even extended. There is one extended, the carriages, when Snape like opens the carriage trying to like find students, trying to.
Oh yeah, students are getting it on.
Yeah,
I will say though, just to briefly talk about that extended scene. I did always find in the theatrical cut that to be one of the weirder edits, because it's a weird. There's like no transition. Mm-hmm. It just has Hermione, like Ron, like being kind of a dick towards Hermione and being like, "Oh, you're with the enemy," yada yada. And in this one, that's when Harry walks off and goes outside and overhears Snape and Igor Kakarov, the headmaster of the Durstrom guys. They are like having this conversation, this heated conversation, and that's when you get, like you said, Snape. He's going around and catching students in carriages, like getting it on, which again is so weird. Harry even walks past like two people making out, and the guy's like, "Get out of here."
Yeah,
it's really strange. But in the theatrical cut, it's weird because it doesn't have that scene, and it just cuts, and Harry's walking back in, and Hermione is like fuming and scolds Harry and acts like their mother and tries sending them to bed. But it's a weird situation because I think the extended scene is stupid and I don't like it. But also, in the theatrical cut, the cut is more jarring.
It's like there's no win.
So
there's no win.
It's a lose-lose scenario.
Okay,
yeah,
you know what? Since we're on that topic, you had something that you wanted to touch on.
It's genuinely 100% my biggest flaw with this movie is the weird necessity to focus on teen romance and angsty teens, and it comes out of nowhere. I understand that teenagers can be a lot, right? I don't like teenagers, and I'm not even like old, they're annoying. I get it. But they create bullshit reasons for characters to get into arguments in this movie. The first third of the movie, up until pretty much after the first task with the dragon, Ron and Harry hate each other, all because Ron thinks that Harry put his name in the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
Now, Ron has, for the last 3 movies, has been a ride or die, Harry's best friend from the start. From the second that Harry stood up for Ron when Malfoy was talking shit when they were on the steps the first time in Hogwarts back in the first movie. They have been boys since day one. 3 years of friendship. They have bled together. They have gone through some shit together. And in this movie, completely out of nowhere, and I don't know if it's a problem with the book writing or if it's a choice in the movie, but the way that Ron acts towards Harry is so outlandishly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just to add in like some teen angst. Mm-hmm. Ron, there's no world in which Ron as a character that we've known for the last 3 movies would ever believe that Harry would want to be in the Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah, and the thing is, the first 3 movies, you know Harry is a target for Voldemort. You know each year these mysteries kind of like revolve themselves around Harry. So you know that the Triwizard Tournament, the fact that his name is in there, it's not going to allow him to put his name in and spit it out. So something is clearly up. Like, just that you would just kind of like, I don't know, decide for yourself that he's behind, like, because he wants the spotlight. Never has Harry done that. So
but and this is too where and I've seen this criticism held, but this is where J.K. Rowling as a writer starts to make her shit more convoluted than it needs to be, because it's another Harry Potter movie / book, so we need to create a mystery, right? So let's create the most illogical setup. Harry's name comes out of the goblet. And instead of everybody just doing the reasonable thing and saying, this is a mistake, he's not of legal age to compete, he's not going to compete, we're not going to throw this 14-year-old into a goddamn death tournament.
Yeah. Because
they just let it happen.
Because of binding contracts? What do these contracts say? What, if he doesn't compete, is he going to get killed? Are you going to get killed?
Dude, I had that exact same note. I wrote what would happen if Harry just didn't compete.
Yeah. Do you get expelled? Maybe. I guess that's it. But like, that just doesn't make sense. And the thing is, it's kind of implied that Dumbledore can override that when McGonagall's talking to him and he's like, and he says, let him compete. That means that it's kind of like, it kind of is in your hand to put an end to it, and he just doesn't.
McGonagall's like the only one acting reasonable in this situation. She's the only one who's like, hey, you can't be serious. Like, we cannot put this child into this tournament. He's gonna get fucking destroyed.
Yeah,
it's so ridiculous. So the setup there, but like, again, not only the teen angst, but why this book could have been 200 pages shorter. And this movie could have been 20 to 30 minutes shorter. Get rid of all of the romance Yule Ball shit.
I don't even think it could have been shorter. I think you just replace it, because I do think it needed more things to have a little bit more of an impact. So
no, Josh. What? Because why would you show a cool Quidditch scene of professional Quidditch?
No, I agree.
Why would you show the other? No, hold on. Why would you show the other contestants fighting a dragon? That's too cool, you know? Because they would rather show teen wizards dancing to wizard punk rock.
Oh, are we going to talk about Johnny Greenwood and Phil Selway being in this?
What the fuck was that about?
I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Johnny Greenwood, that's Radiohead, right?
They're both Radiohead. So if anybody listens to Radiohead, they got the drummer, one of the drummers, Phil Selway, and Johnny Greenwood in this movie, in the band. It is absolutely hilarious.
That's who that was?
Yeah.
If you are a Radiohead fan or have listened to their albums, please DM Josh and tell him that King of Limbs is bad.
Wild. Wild.
But back to Goblet of Fire. It's just, there's so much unnecessary bullshit in this movie, and all I could think while watching is, why are we constantly cutting away from the cool wizard tournament and focusing on teenage romance and very poorly done teenage romance?
There's more time spent on the Yule Ball buildup than there. Like, the Triwizard Tournament doesn't actually feel like a big focus. It kind of just feels like background.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you want to do that, that's fine. Work on the character moments. This movie is so reliant on but it also isn't on action, but it's also trying to do this weird comedic stuff with these young teenagers being so awkward and dreading finding a date because they can't find a date.
The scene when Harry Cho looks at Harry and water spills out of his mouth.
Yeah,
it makes me want to bang my head against a fucking wall.
Yeah, there's okay, so oh god, there's so much. Just the characterization of these people. So Ron still stinks. You kind of already mentioned that, but Hermione has been logical on Harry's side up until now. All of a sudden, she's just on Ron's side, or at least acting like it. When the infuriating scene when Ron is being childish and whispering to Hermione to talk to Harry, and then she goes back to Ron. She says two things to Harry, and then the second Harry communicates the only way that Ron is allowing it to happen, she fucking snaps at him. She snaps so much at everybody, but like to do that, it's off brand for her. It doesn't make sense. There's a nice part in the book where she actually like has a conversation with Harry of like why Ron is acting like this, and actually giving a little bit of like maybe sympathy to Ron, but you don't get that. She like talks about how he's like he's the shadow, he's the sidekick, and that's how he feels. He doesn't say anything, and it doesn't really.
You get a little bit of that with one line with Ron where he says, "Oh, that's me, Harry Potter's stupid friend."
But you just get none of that. And at least that would kind of like texturize Hermione instead of just making her this unreasonably angry like sidekick now to Ron at Harry. I don't know.
But it's like all the characters, like you said, they're all like Ron, like Hermione is she's a little over the top when she yells at Harry and Ron and is like, "Go to bed, both of you," after the Yule Ball. But Ron is like really like he's always been like a little, I don't want to say mean, but he always has like a comment or a jab at Hermione. But in this movie, like he genuinely says and acts like really like a dick. He's just a dick in this movie towards everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody just lets it go. Like they just let it slide. They like he like apologizes once and they're all like forgiven.
What does Ron do in this? He does nothing. And even her.
No. He told someone to tell someone to tell someone to tell someone to tell Harry that Hagrid was looking for him.
Oh god. You know what? Even Hermione doesn't do anything in this movie, and it's weird because when he's preparing for these tasks, this girl has known every spell in the book up until now. She knows nothing. You're telling me she doesn't know a bubble charm? She doesn't know that you can like. She doesn't know Accio to like summon the broom. Like, how is she Neville? Help. I mean, that is with the help of Mad Eye that we learned later. But spoiler alert. Sorry, but Neville.
Spoiler alert for all these movies, guys. We didn't say it, but if you should know by now.
But like the fact that Neville is more purposeful than Hermione is just not. It's just weird. There was a change that they made that I did like more because in the books they have Dobby. They have Mad Eye kind of like sway Dobby to getting Harry the Gillyweed. I don't really know how that would have worked. I kind of like him using Neville. It seemed more seamless. It seemed more natural, and it gave Neville a little bit more. I don't know. I thought that was nice. There's some good parts in this movie. I don't know how you feel. I like the lake scene. At least how it looks. How it looks visually.
This is a weird. I think I don't like the lake scene because it looks okay for the time, and this is a problem when special effects get better and better, is 2 years ago, and I don't even like this movie really, but Avatar Way of the Water has the best looking underwater scenes ever. So it's not, and I hate using that as a comparison, and it's why I always feel like practical effects do have way more of a timeless feel and look to them when done properly, as opposed to CGI, because I don't think that the underwater stuff looks particularly bad in this movie, but I will say that it looks dated, and I don't always entirely buy what's going on in the lake, specifically the mer people stuff. And also, again, it's not even the actual lake stuff. It's right after the lake stuff, but Dumbledore again showing a fair bit of favoritism towards Harry Potter because he saved 2 people. And I had to look this up because I was like, okay, wait, would they have died if he didn't save them? And no. They just have a charm on them that puts them, like, they can go underwater.
But
they would have been fine.
I think the students don't know that. I think the students think that...
Okay, then they're stupid. Because do you really think that the teachers are going to kill a bunch of random students for the sake of a contest?
Well, they have said people have died in this, so maybe they... I don't know. You could have thought that.
Whatever.
I know, but...
Yeah, I could see you dying from a fucking dragon.
How do you not have... Which, in the books, you do have a non-biased judge, Ludo Bagman, I think it is, who's excluded from this, whatever. I'm not even going to go into that because I don't want to get caught up in too much of the book, but... How do you have one of the headmasters from the schools competing as the judge that just can make these decisions? There's no committee. There's nothing. There's not even a vote of like, hey, should Harry get second? Let's all 3 of us vote. You know, It's
Well, apparently there was. We just didn't see it because Dumbledore says the committee or the judges or whatever he says we came to a decision. We're going to award Harry second place.
bullshit.
Which
I don't believe it.
like I don't know
Because he also cheated.
I don't think
he cheated. Like I don't care that you tried to save two. Well, you can only save one, so you saved two. That's cheating.
I don't think it's cheating. I think it's just stupid.
It's breaking the rules.
Like it's just dumb because Harry arrives. Harry's literally the first person to arrive. He gets to the people that need to be saved first. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So, and then instead of just immediately saving the one person, like saving Ron, because that's who was taken from him, instead of just saving him and getting first legitimately, which would have been cool, they need to add all this extra convoluted shit in to where Harry just kind of fucks around for a couple minutes, and that's when Cedric comes in. Cedric saves Cho Chang. Geez, these names. Cedric saves Cho Chang, and then Victor Crumb swims past Harry, and you see that Victor has a shark head, which is a cool spell, I guess.
I like how
he saves Hermione.
Yeah, and I like how Harry's dilemma was he wanted to save Hermione and Ron, didn't care about Fleur's sister, but now his dilemma is, I still have to save a second one. Like,
yeah. and then like after it, like fucking Fleur kisses Harry and Ron on the cheek and is like, "You guys saved my sister." They didn't. It is a competition, okay? Your sister would have been fine. Maybe if you weren't shit at being a witch, then maybe you could have saved her.
Which is funny because apparently she is actually like supposed to be really good. And like, I think there's been like 115 tournaments in the Triwizard, and supposedly Hogwarts has 63 wins, and Bo Batten has 62. Durmstrang has none.
So, okay, that makes no fucking sense because Durstram, they are shown as like the most,
or Durstram. I think I said Durstrang.
Whatever. It's the Russian boys or Bulgarian boys. I'm sorry, the Bulgarian boys. No, because they are shown to be just like the most serious, agile, fucking strict kind of students. I don't know if you probably saw it, but the extended scene, they have one where they have 3 Durstram boys approach the girls and they like bow to them, and then the one asks the other out and she's like yes, and then they bow again and just walk away. Oh my god, can I talk about my favorite extended scene of any movie?
I've been waiting.
Oh, you don't know what it is? Oh, okay. All right, so in the original theatrical cut, when you are introduced to the other 2 schools, they have like little entrances, and
is this extended?
Yeah. So in the theatrical cut, you see the Bulgarian guys, the Durstram boys. You see them enter, and there's like this like heavy drumming in the background, and they like do like some flips and some rolls and shit. It's kind of silly, actually. I thought it was cool when I was a kid, and watching it this time, I was like, this is so dorky. And then the girls come in and they do this little entrance too, and they do this little and like these little birds fly out of their hands, and all the boys, and that's when you get the weird ass shot. Again, really weird in a Harry Potter movie. But
so I just want to let you know, I have a note here. I just want to know if it's gonna.
It's probably it's gotta be okay. But in the original theatrical cut, and it's funny because while watching it, I literally, as that was happening, I was like, I wonder what would happen, what Hogwarts would do if they went to another school, because Hogwarts, like, they're pretty normal in comparison to the other 2 schools. And then in the extended cut, they show you Hogwarts' thing, and it's them singing a song.
Oh my god.
And it's honest. I laughed. It was, I watched this one after a long shift too, so it was like 4 a.m. I was cackling at this scene.
I was baffled at how horrible these lyrics were of the song. So the song Jake is talking about is called Hoggy Warty Hogwarts. You know what's funny is that the third one is the first one to like introduce a choir, like singing,
and it's awesome.
And that song actually, like that
with the frogs.
That's good. Huh?
With the kids in the front, they have the frogs, and it's that great tracking shot, and it's boil, double trouble. I love that.
That's a good track.
Yeah.
This goes back to Mike Newell just trying to be like competitive. He was like, okay, I got to throw in a fucking like school song, and it sucks. I can't believe it was like the first line is like. Well, the first line is saying, Hoggy Warty Hogwarts, teach us something, please. I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
And the lyrics are on the screen in like magic writing, and it's clearly intentional comedy. Like they're trying for it to be a funny scene, because the Durstrom guys are like, they have the badass entrance, and then the why do I keep forgetting the female school's name?
Beauxbaton.
It's so stupid. The Beauxbatons, they have like this little elegant entrance, and then you get to the Hogwarts kids, and they just sing the dumbest fucking song ever. I just had to highlight that because that is my favorite extended scene of all time. I don't think I've laughed that hard in a long time.
I think I forgot it was extended. So when you said that, I couldn't remember some of the extended scenes, like which one, because I think I've been seeing them so much, because like I don't know. But yeah, that was really bad. But I wanted to just talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what?
Oh, sorry. I was looking at my notes. I was gonna say this is because we brought it up last episode that this is the movie that has the really weak silence from Dumbledore, as opposed to Richard Harris's in the first movie. But yeah, what were you saying?
So okay, I looked it up. So yeah, it's Durmstrang. Durmstrang. So okay. Why does Victor play for a Bulgarian team?
Oh, are they not a Bulgarian school?
No, they're not. So when I watched it,
okay,
like Dumbledore's like, our friends from the north, and I'm like, where is Bulgaria? And it's south of England, so it's like it's not in the north.
Wait, so where's Durmstrang from?
So apparently that's like it's in Sweden, I think, or like
no, those are not Swedish people.
Yeah. Well, because it's close to Russia, so they're supposed to like resemble Russia. But why does he play for Bulgaria?
I mean, I get maybe it's just like kind of how the NBA, where like a lot of foreign players come here, and some players from here go to the Europe League or whatever. I just find it strange that like the best seeker in all of Quidditch is again a 17-year-old. Like I'm not even like. You know,
I didn't think you'd be allowed on the team.
Like, well, I mean, it happens in like it sort of happens in the NBA. I don't think they do it anymore. But you know, not Michael Jordan, LeBron James, fresh out of high school. I don't think Kobe Bryant went to college. Both were drafted at 18. But I don't know. LeBron was pretty dominant as a rookie too. I don't know. So maybe it is accurate. I guess so. Shout out any of our fans who are NBA fans. Go Lakers.
I actually don't mind the Lakers.
I like their colors. Okay. So one thing I did want to highlight in this movie, because we have been, I guess, bashing it a lot. It's a positive and a negative, because I love Brendan Gleeson as Mad-Eye Moody. I love the idea of taking an Auror, which you're explained in the film is a wizard who works for the ministry, who goes around hunting dark wizards. So already you're like, oh, this is a very, very different Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher than the last three. And Brendan Gleeson just brings such a chaos and energy to this role that is undeniable. And again, I love this like kind of crazy, kind of wacky teacher who ultimately does teach the students really important things, probably a better teacher than the last three. And I love when he turns Draco into a weasel, and he has that one remark when McGonagall is like, is that a student? And he goes, technically it's a ferret. It's great. I love it. But you know where the negative lies is? It's not Mad-Eye Moody. No, it's not Mad-Eye Moody. It's not Mad-Eye Moody. So all the character development that we get of Mad-Eye in this movie, all of the character dynamic between Harry and Mad-Eye in this movie, it means nothing. It absolutely has no impact on the rest of the franchise. And I think that sucks, because a character that they do bring back in later movies, a character that was developed in the last one, Remus Lupin, that relationship that he built with Harry in that movie, it carries on in the later films. Same with his relationship with Sirius Black. But Now you have an entire, again, this goes back to why J.K. Rowling decided that she needed to make everything convoluted. So instead of just giving us a really cool character in Mad-Eye Moody, we get Doctor Who pretending to be Mad-Eye Moody. So I
feel that.
I hate that.
You hate it because it takes away from their relationship, but you don't hate it because that is like I imagine how Mad-Eye is, so you kind of still get him.
I wouldn't know.
But
we see him like a little bit in one other movie, I think.
Dumbledore knows him, and he never questions him, so I'm assuming he's like kind of.
Yeah, but it's the same issue I have with Avengers Endgame. In the final battle of that movie, the emotional weight isn't in those fights with Thanos, because that's not their Thanos. That's not the Thanos that snapped away half the universe. That's not the Thanos that killed Vision. And, you know, it's not the same person. He doesn't have those same experiences that their Thanos did. So it loses that emotional resonance. And it's the same in this. I don't care when Mad-Eye shows up in the later movies, because this Mad-Eye, he doesn't even know Harry, because they haven't interacted.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
So
I feel that.
It's stupid, and I hate it. And I hate everything with Barty Crouch and Barty Crouch Jr., and I think that shit sucks.
It could have been better, because like the weird thing before Barty Crouch dies, in the book it's just so much. It's just so much better. Like this feels again rushed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember exactly how it goes in the book, but pretty much. I was
just gonna say it also just feels a little too obvious. I don't know if you feel that way as well, but they put such an emphasis on Mad-Eye doing that little tongue thing.
I hate the tongue.
And then you see the flashback with Barty Crouch Jr., where it kind of works as fills in a little bit of backstory of other characters too, because in the whole flashback you find out that Severus Snape was a Death Eater but was a double agent working for Dumbledore, and you also find out that Igor Kakarov, who is a major red herring in this movie, as far as to who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire. They even have a shot of him sneaking into the thing to put a name in the goblet. Yeah, no, it's clear to try to paint him as the bad guy to divert attention away from Mad-Eye.
No, but yeah,
it's dumb.
But like, yeah, it's a dumb red herring for no like.
Yeah, in the flashback, you find out that Kakarov was actually a Death Eater, and he's the one who rats out Barty Crouch Jr., who's then sentenced to Azkaban. But this movie just it tries to shove in so much, and it's not like I want this movie to be longer, but it has such a lack of focus. I think that's the biggest problem with this movie, is it doesn't have a focus. If this film had just focused on the Triwizard Tournament and it didn't try to get all convoluted with this Barty Crouch Jr. subplot, it would have been such a better, more streamlined movie. And it goes back to what I said in the last episode. Yeah, it's cool to add layers to a film if the layers work, but when they don't, then simpler is better. And this movie and book should have just focused on the Wizard Tournament.
I don't agree with the book just focusing on that. I think like I said, I think the book is very good. But see, this is what I was saying of like, it is a matter of how time is used. It's not a matter of time being long itself. So this movie, I guess, is too long because the scenes are just not utilized as well as they could be. If you added stuff that would just make things matter more or be more intriguing, and you had the same timestamp, it wouldn't be too long. So it's just a matter of like how you're using your time.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
What you're putting in. I think, like, all right, I'm trying to look at my notes here.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I don't have too much really about this one.
There was a weird thing that was actually cut in this, which is weird because it's extended. But I remember, I don't know if it's a version of the extended or if it's theatrical. But when Snape accuses Harry of stealing from his cabinet or his closet, in the version I know, he says kind of like the ingredients for that were stolen, and then after that he says, you and your friends are brewing polyjuice potion and I'm going to find out why. That line where he says like you and your friends is completely cut out. It's cut immediately when he says the ingredients to an extended scene of Hermione.
Yeah.
Of him telling Hermione that, and she says he thinks we're Polyjuice Potion. But I was like, okay.
The extended scene is the Hermione one, correct?
Yeah.
That I was confused by that because I was like, I don't remember.
I've never seen that day in my life.
I think you're right because I don't remember ever seeing that scene, and also I do remember them explaining the Polyjuice Potion earlier, like in the movie. But then I was like, but wait, in the scene, you're right. Snape doesn't say what the. Okay, that's such a weird.
It was the first time I saw something cut.
Yeah.
In these movies on Peacock, so that just made it like.
Agreed. I don't think in the last 3 movies at all. Like I don't think anything was cut. Correct. If any of you guys are listening and you're super big Harry Potter fans and you've watched the extended cuts on Peacock and you're really familiar with these movies, let us know if they cut anything in the first 3 because I didn't notice it.
Me neither. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I do have some issues with some of the visual effects in this movie. I think when they pull the little CGI dragons out of the bag to choose which dragon they're going to have to fight, they don't look great. The shading and textures just look very fake, very like video game graphic-y. The big dragons I think look good for the time. I thought the big dragon held up particularly well. Yeah, I don't know.
So let's just go to the last task. The maze. Big misunderstanding from the director. He said he wanted to change it up from the book. Instead of making it like an obstacle thing, he wanted to be like a psychological game, I guess.
Which I'm fine with. I don't hate the maze.
I do.
Really?
I do. I do. It's first off, you don't get any explanation of Crumb being under the Imperious Curse, but he's like bewitched. Which is
Harry says it though.
He says he's bewitched, but you don't know why when he points the wand at Harry. Like there's nothing telling you what happened to Crumb. How did this happen?
I guess the only indication is there's clearly something wrong with his eyes.
Yeah,
like
but does that say him? Is that like a trait of the Imperious Curse? Like,
I don't know. I don't think so because I think they used the Imperious Curse in Deathly Hallows when they're breaking into the bank, and I don't think it changes.
No, but I like it being obstacles because it's not supposed to be a mental thing. Like, first off, it's kind of this is the climax. This is the climax task, and it just feels underwhelming. The maze coming alive, I get like maybe there's some intrigue there, but I don't know. You're supposed to be utilizing your skills as a wizard, and the whole psychological thing just doesn't work for me.
I do like it because I think I like that the first 2 tasks are very physical based, and I like that the third one implements a little bit of psychological durability where it's like I don't know, there was something just always about the way that Dumbledore explains the maze where it always just kind of intimidated me, where he says something along the lines of, be very careful, people tend to lose themselves in the maze, and it adds this kind of layer of intensity to it, and it's like, oh, well, what goes on in there? Maybe, I guess it's been a while since I've read the book, so I don't know how much different that final task is, but...
So in the maze, they kind of combined physicality and mental games. Like there's like puzzles and riddles and shit like that. But like it's not like it's all psychological. The maze is coming alive. They have to, and it is physical. Like it does kind of wrap them up. So it's like a physical game too. But just doesn't seem. And I think that was a money thing. I think that was like a budget thing. They didn't want to like.
Yeah. So either way, I guess I don't know. It works for me, but I guess. Ultimately, I guess they didn't really put a lot of thought into the final task because essentially it really does just serve to lead to the final scene, but the final scene of the climax, which is early on in the maze. Crumb, a bewitched Crumb, takes out Fleur Delacour, and Harry stumbles upon her, which if he didn't send up that red flare, would she have died?
I think so.
Oh shit. Okay, so Harry's actually Harry's a real one, I guess. But either way, there's a scene. Cedric Diggory and Victor Crumb, they have a little duel. Cedric takes him out and is about to. I don't know if he's about to kill him or do something to him, but he's pointing his wand at him, and Harry's like, no, he's bewitched, and Cedric just takes off. Him and Harry both stumble upon the goblet. They see the goblet. They both go running after it, and as Josh said, the maze moves and changes and shifts, and the maze behind them starts closing in. Cedric falls, he starts getting like pulled away by these roots that come out of the ground. These roots come alive and start taking Cedric, and then Harry saves him, which is a good character moment. I like that because, you know, it almost, the movie kind of starts out with the Triwizard Tournament and it's, just survive. But then it gets to a point where it's like, oh, Harry, you can win this thing. I still don't know why he would want to. But either way, he saves Cedric. They both get to the cup together. They're gonna touch it together. Gonna go out, and which I don't know if what happens next didn't happen and they just won. It'd be a little suspicious that the two Hogwarts kids made it out. But whatever. Either way, so they touch the thing, and this is actually, I will give the movie credit. I think the setup and payoff is really good, and the re-implementation of the port key, because they show you the port key very early on at the beginning of the film, and you think nothing of it. You think this is just another cool way to see wizards travel, and then it's revealed that the cup is a port key and takes them to a graveyard, which is the graveyard that we've been seeing throughout the film in Harry's visions and dreams.
Yep, I agree. I think that last moment when they go to the graveyard, I think that whole thing is I think it's really well done. I don't know how you feel about that whole. Okay, I didn't know if you didn't like it once Voldemort comes in.
I like it up until one specific point. Okay,
so I want to say something about the maze. I do like that they have this little moment of like take a deep breath and Harry saves him. Like there's that, but in the book, I liked it even more when I read it, and I kind of I got reminded that they approach. So like the maze isn't alive, so it's not as chaotic as it's in the movie, and I think that was a problem in the movie because there's a really nice moment because you don't get much of Cedric in this movie, which sucks. He's very like all these characters actually in the Triwizard Tournament are very throwaway characters, and Cedric is a little better than Crumb and Fleur, but
I wish Cedric was given more development. And I think if you're gonna go the route of making Ron and Harry at odds in this movie, I think what you do is you implement Cedric as the substitute Ron, and you have Harry and Cedric grow a bond together, and then it ultimately makes what happens to him at the end more impactful, because doesn't hit for me.
In this one, they see the key, see and they go to it. They're like right next to it, and nothing else is happening around them. It's very quiet. They have this heart to heart kind of thing, of like them just doing the whole Cedric's telling them take it, like you saved me. But it's like it's a moment where you can actually connect with these guys without chaos happening, kind of distracting you. But in this one, it's like a 5-second part where they get to it, and he says you take it. I don't know. I think that moment could have been like a really nice connecting piece between them, make you maybe a little bit more sympathetic, because they do it a little bit where you kind of like, first off, they kind of villainize Cedric in the maze, and then at the very end he's like, he kind of redeems himself a tiny bit, but not enough to like.
Yeah, also fuck Cedric, because Harry flat out just tells Cedric what the first task is, and instead of Cedric paying him back by just coming over and being, hey Harry, you know, it's underwater, like it's gonna be an underwater task.
Dude turns into the Riddler.
Yeah, he turns into the fucking Riddler and is like, you know the third floor prefect bathroom. It's good for a bath. I do like when he goes to take the bath though. I don't know why, but I've always found this like visually appealing. But the water that comes out of the thing is like different colors. So it's like a really blue water, a yellow water, and like a red water. I don't know why, but I always just like thought that detail was kind of interesting.
Where's the Slytherin water?
Yeah, there's no Oh, wait. Oh, those are the colors of the houses.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I never put two and two together. That's so funny. Yeah, this is where you get that Moaning Myrtle scene where she tries to take a peek at Harry's dick, which is, again, just super weird. But, yeah, I guess leading into the final thing. No, I agree with you. I really wish that they had just, built up Cedric and Harry's relationship more in the film and just developed any of the characters. Crumb, they don't give you anything for Fleur Delacour other than, like, Ron trying to ask her out, which...
They both have 2 lines in the movie. That's it.
It's insane. Yeah, it's for them being, again, this movie just doesn't know what to focus on. And again, I don't know if it's more prominent in the books. I'm sure they have more development in the books, but when you're adapting this story for the silver screen, I think your best bet is to really nix all of the romance, the Yule Ball stuff, and really just try to set up and focus on the tournament. Give us more of the tournament. Why am I not seeing the other contestants fight the dragon? It doesn't, you just hear it, and it's all for time purposes, but like you said, what they use that other, bits of time on are not good scenes. But yeah, anyway, we'll kind of wrap things up for this movie, I guess. At least I'm kind of done, but Goblet of Fire, the final climactic scene is they take the port key, they go to this graveyard. Harry is like, I know where we are, and it's clear he's seen this before, and like I said, it's what he's been envisioning the entire movie. Looks at the gravestone, realizes it's the grave of Tom Riddle, and then our boy Wormtail comes out and straight up fucking kills Cedric. Avada Kedavras him, kills him, and it's pretty matter of fact. It's pretty blunt, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. I've already said I feel like either on the last episode or earlier this one, I hate the Avada Kedavra curse. I think it is the lamest fucking spell ever, because there's so many other ways you could kill people. Like, the other 2 unforgivable curses that you hear about in the movie make sense. Okay, you shouldn't be able to torture someone with a spell, and you shouldn't be able to mind control them. And then you just have Avada Kedavra, which just it's like it's a gunshot. You're just shooting someone, essentially. It's very uncreative. It's very stupid. But yeah, and then we get this whole ritual sequence in which Harry is cut. They use his blood, the bone of Tom Riddle's father, and Wormtail cuts off his own hand. And then they take little deformed baby Voldemort and they throw him in the big pot of soup, and then little baby Voldemort grows into big Voldemort.
A man.
Yeah, he was a boy, and now he's a man. Yeah, you get your first kind of appearance of Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort. They recast the actor who played Voldemort in the first movie. They did not get, and they obviously the kid from the second one playing Tom Riddle is like young, so it wouldn't work, but I really like Ralph Fiennes in the scene. I think he's super charismatic, but also extremely terrifying. I remember watching this for the first time as a kid. This is actually the first Harry Potter movie that I saw in a theater. I saw it in the Stroud Mall theater, the Cinemark there.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember we were just walking around the mall that day, and I begged my mom, because Goblet of Fire was playing. I was like, please, can we see it? And it was great. But I remember just being really scared of Voldemort and the Death Eaters. And again, like when you're watching this as a kid, and this is the first Harry Potter movie where you see a student die, and it does kind of hit at first. I think, again, if they had developed Cedric a little more, it would work better for me as an adult. But there is still that impact of, okay, the stakes of this franchise officially have been risen. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but my biggest fucking gripe with this scene is it's so great up until Harry and Voldemort's wands link. They cast a spell at each other, and it sucks because right before that you get maybe my favorite Harry moment in the first 4 movies, and it's when Harry's hiding from Voldemort and he just has a fuck it moment. He's done hiding. He doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, he's good there.
I love that. And he's like, he just walks out, and it's really good physical performance and good facial acting from Radcliffe. But their wands link. Harry casts Expelliarmus, again, a disarming spell. And Voldemort casts Avada Kedavra. Their wands link, and they're going back and forth, and Harry's starting to lose. And then you get my least fucking favorite part of this movie, and it's the ghost parents. So, like, out of nowhere, Harry's mom and dad and Cedric, their ghosts emerge from the wands linking, and you're like, oh, they're just giving Harry a pep talk. They're just going to talk him up, hype him up, and maybe he can get out of this. No, they're very real because they attack Voldemort. The ghosts attack Voldemort, which gives Harry enough time to Accio the cup when he runs to Cedric's body. I don't know. I hate that. I don't know how you feel.
No, I'm perfectly fine with the ghost. The thing I have a problem with is that so in the book they explain like what that is, so you kind of understand it. I'm fine with it. I just wish it kind of like you kind of understand. You kind of get it afterwards. Like I think Dumbledore just kind of says, "What is it, priori incantatem or something like that," and that's where they connect, and the spirits that were killed by that wand kind of come out. I'm fine with it. I don't know. Did you find it cheesy? Did you find it random?
I just it felt very the phrase like Deus Ex Machina, like something that just like out of nowhere comes and saves the day, like like Gandalf at the end of Two Towers, and it happens a lot where it's like the main guy's losing, and then like help comes out of nowhere. It always feels like a really cheap and lazy writing plot. They do it actually in like 2 Lord of the Rings movies, but no, it just feels really cheap and kind of weak in this movie. It again, like you said, they do sort of explain it, but it's just not enough for me. It just kind of ruins the intensity and the magnitude of that scene. But I don't hate it. I really do enjoy almost all of that up until their wands link, because I've said multiple times I'm not a fan of the wand linking thing. I just think it's so stupid.
I don't mind the wand linking if they capitalized on other parts of magic, but I am perfectly fine with them kind of like.
But they do it in every fucking movie.
Yeah, no, I get what I think it does look nice. I'll be honest.
It looks cool.
I think it's a nice visual.
Just remove the music from that scene, and it's just 2 guys like pushing their wands at each other really hard.
Right, but the music's pretty good. The music's pretty good.
It's so silly. Not the music, but the scene.
I don't know. I think it would be like, I just don't know how else you would do it. I think that is Harry's only kind of like chance to have
cast spells. I don't know, just normal spells
against Voldemort. Like he tried, and Voldemort,
I think you could get away with it because the scene does kind of play out in a way where Voldemort is toying with Harry. Like I do like the bit where he's like, come on, Harry, like, where are your manners? Don't you know how to duel? Like, where's your bow? And he like forces him to bow, and I enjoy all of that. It's just I don't know. It's just, again, like the lack of creativity when it comes to the magic, and it's, I don't know, like what are the power levels of these spells? Because like you're gonna tell me a disarming spell can match a killing spell? Like that doesn't seem right.
I actually can't remember, because I remember I looked this up, and I forget what the reason is why Expelliarmus is like so like. I don't know why
it's used.
I have to look that.
Like we said, it's very weird in these movies, because we talked about in Chamber of Secrets, Expelliarmus, it knocks Gilderoy Lockhart off of his feet, and then in the last movie, Prisoner of Azkaban, they use that spell quite a bit, and it always just knocks the wand out of their hand. You see like a little white glow, and it knocks the wand out of their hands.
I do want to, something I forgot to say. You're actually wrong here. The last movie,
I know,
it's actually
with Snape.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, okay, so you can control what Expelliarmus does. You can control if it like knocks them out,
even visually,
and disarms them, or just
even visually. It's always shown as like a almost like in Star Wars when they do like a force push. Like you never really see it. You see like a little white glow, I think, when it knocks the wands out of their hands. But in this movie, for some reason, when Harry casts it at Voldemort, it's like a red beam.
Well, there is a reason. Well, I don't know why it's red, because I think in the books, I think it's gold. I think it's like a gold beam I think they just did red and green because of like their like houses. Honestly.
Yeah, I guess, but again, why does it visually look different than when he casts Expelliarmus every other time in the last couple movies? Do you mean with
the strand like connecting?
It's just like,
do you mean that?
Like, yeah, like when he uses, like when any other character uses it in other movies, it's like, again, it's shown as like a force push, or it knocks the wand out of their hand. And then in this movie, when he casts it at Voldemort, it just sends out like a red beam. and it just never made sense to me, and it still doesn't.
I mean, it makes sense why they connect. They explain that later on. I couldn't tell you why the color changes. Yeah, I mean that's
but I mean my thoughts are kind of done. I mean there's more plot.
I think Ray Fiennes really does like his performance, but just like how they did Voldemort. I know some people were kind of upset. They wanted him to be a little scarier.
I think he's scary.
I'm perfectly fine with him.
Yeah.
I don't mind his design at all, but I appreciate the calm and collected evil a lot. I don't need you to be like on the nose scary, you know? So I very much love his performance in these movies.
Well, what's weird is the Voldemort that we get like in present day never matches up with the Voldemort that we see in any flashback. In all the other flashbacks, he is kind of calm, collected, and creepy, but from Goblet of Fire on, when you see him in present day, he's always very like theatrical and very larger than life. Like he chews the scenery. Like Ray Fiennes just chews the scenery every time. So there's not a lot of continuity with that, but I don't know. I guess maybe like being on the back of a guy's head for a couple years and being a little deformed baby, maybe it makes you go a little crazy. But maybe. No,
I don't know.
Yeah, in terms of plot, they bring Cedric's body back. It's very sad. They play that theme that they play, which I didn't mention. They play that same theme like 40 fucking times in this movie. You want to talk about my issues with like using the same music over and over? They play that it's like, I think it's like horns. It's like a horn section. It's like that ba 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 ba. They play that.
Oh,
like,
that yeah.
So many fucking times in this movie that it has like zero impact by the end. It's sad. That's my boy. That's my boy.
Dude soaks up his screen time like no other.
Yeah, because he only has like 3 scenes, so he's like, this is how I'm gonna get my next job. But yeah, no, it's fine. Harry's all sad, and it is like a wake up moment. Like I said, they do raise the stakes in this movie. All the students are like, holy shit, like that Cedric's dead. Like it does. Again, if they had developed Cedric more, it would work more for me as an audience member, but whatever. And then they bring what's his name, fake Mad Eye Moody brings Harry back, and this is when you find out that he's been drinking Polyjuice potion, and boom, plot twist, it's not Mad Eye Moody, it's Barty Crouch Jr.
I think that's actually a nicely done scene.
No.
I think you don't think so?
No.
No, I do. No, I like that the reveal comes just from him slipping like the graveyard line, because I think that's something they added that was in the books, but I think that was like a nice line that Harry had, just like I didn't say anything about the graveyard, and just kind of like having that be like the reveal.
It's not bad. It's just an overused cliche.
What? That
sort of writing, I don't want to say technique. That sort of writing choice to where a character, like they do it, I don't know why I'm bringing up Scream, but they do it in Scream 4 with a particular character who lets something slip and it gives them up. They do it in a lot of...
Guess what? Scream 4 came after this.
No, I know, but I'm saying I've seen this done in a lot of movies and shows where a character lets one little tiny thing slip, and then another character is like, wait, I didn't say anything about that. And it's fine, but also he runs out of Polyjuice potion, so he would have started turning anyway.
Yeah, I like how Mad Eye does a better Hagrid than Hagrid does when he imitates Hagrid's voice.
Oh yeah.
I thought they dubbed Hagrid's voice over him for a second.
That's a funny. What if they actually did? No.
So you don't like that scene at all?
I don't like the scene because I don't like the. It's not even like it's a bad scene, quote unquote. I just don't like the whole subplot of Barty Crouch Jr. being Mad Eye. And again, like maybe that reveal would have hit a little bit harder if they didn't key in on that whole facial tick where Barty Crouch Jr. does the tongue thing. And Mad Eye Moody doesn't do it all movie until he comes in contact with Barty Crouch Sr. and he does it. And Barty Crouch Jr. has like the most obvious like, and then dies like a scene later off screen fucking dies.
I think so. Okay, so we didn't really talk about it, and we don't have to go into it because we kind of already said it. But
we're
like
way
Dumbledore,
long.
Yeah, Dumbledore is very aggressive in this. He doesn't have any kind of subtlety in any calm any calm delivery. And I think if you just did that throughout this movie, the scene where he bursts in would have been a lot better. But it's like, okay, you've been acting like this when he like interrogates Mad Eye. You've been acting like this the whole movie for no reason. This would have been a lot better if you were just very, very cool and like kind of just like just melancholy, but then you can snap like when you need to. That would have just been a lot more impactful. I really wish they just did that.
But again, this as a whole has a really weird presence in this movie. Like,
yeah, and it's because the director doesn't know his shit.
He's like, I don't even know who this character is.
That's why I'm saying, like, even Dumbledore feels so different from the last one. I know you kind of like said he's he feels sassier, but I don't know. I think he kind of matches a little bit of what Richard Harris brought to the table. Not as like...
Well, in this one, he has like the scene where he's like, "Oh, Miss Granger, what are you doing here?" And she's like, I don't know, I'm leaving. Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are kind of... I will say, if you think you think Dumbledore is an idiot in this movie, I think he's the biggest idiot in the next one. It's the one where he gets the most bamboozled. But hey, Dumbledore's got style.
How did you like his eulogy for Cedric?
It's fine.
Okay. You know what I don't like?
Can I be honest?
It would have been a lot better. What?
I after the scene where what's his face, Barty Crouch Jr. is revealed to be Mad Eye Moody or impersonating Mad Eye Moody, it was so late. I turned the movie off.
Oh my god. Well, anyway, okay, so I'll take it from here.
I know what happens. I've seen the movie. I turned it off. I was bored.
Well, so my problem here is that Dumbledore, I think, gives like a nice heartfelt eulogy. I think this is how he should have been more in the earlier parts of the movie. He's like very
Stoic.
he's just very and but the problem is the next scene, all the students are happy, leaving like, kind of just being jovial, and I'm just like, can we get a little bit more somber, like,
dude, that's
attitude here?
Ron has the weirdest line where he's like, "Are we ever gonna have a quiet year at Hogwarts?" Dude, like, a student's dead. Maybe shut the fuck up. Like, someone's dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ron, you fucking tool.
But that's kind of like all
it's
what?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, we didn't even mention that one of the weirdest decisions by the director in this movie is, I don't think they wear robes at all in this movie. They
really?
I think they only wear like jeans and sweatshirts. Like,
wait, like Hogwarts?
Yeah,
students?
The Hogwarts students.
No. I think every scene Cedric's in, he's wearing a robe.
Oh.
And they got
okay,
the robes.
they do wear it a little bit, but in this one the most, I feel like, because they bring the robes back in the fifth one, but in this one, like, the main characters, they're always like not in robes. They're always in like baggy jeans and like cargos.
So, like I was, I think it's very fun to like pick apart this movie because there is a lot to just like kind of shit on.
Yeah.
I think there are positive things. It was just it felt easier to just kind of focus on the negatives, but like I think Hermione is not that good in this. I think she's worse than the last one in this one, but I do think Harry is better.
Yeah.
For the
he
most
gets better
part.
every movie for sure.
Yeah, and Brendan Gleeson's performance is really good. So like Ray Fiennes, like you're always adding like really nice additions to the cast, mostly the adult cast, but for what Cedric is in, he's pretty good. But I just wish there was more of them. But
he's just kind of bland in this movie. Like, they don't do anything.
No, his character isn't like that, like, well written. But
like, I don't dislike him, but like they just kind of, he's just kind of like the hot older guy. Like, they don't really, like, he has a couple small things with Harry, like, where they help each other out, but like, yeah, again, they don't do anything with it. They don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And like, you're right, there is good performances. Brendan Gleeson's fantastic. You do get Gary Oldman back for a scene when he's like a face in the fire.
Which looks much better than the fifth. I'm just gonna go on record.
Dude, what
for
were
that.
they thinking in the fifth one?
I don't know.
That was bad. But either way,
actually, I thought that looked really good in the fourth one.
Yeah, it did look good. It's like an actual like effect. Like, it's not just like they like shot like Sirius Black on a green screen and then like turn the opacity down and put it behind a fire, like, which is what they do in the fifth one. But yeah, I mean, my thoughts are pretty much. I think I'm not really. I ultimately came around on Chamber of Secrets after, bashing it for a while, and I do think there's problems in that movie, but there's still some really great direction. There's still some really great set design, and it has, like, even though it's long and some of the scenes aren't useless, it still feels like a way more focused movie than this one, and you don't get nearly, if any, as cringy scenes as you do in this one, especially with, like, the Yule Ball stuff and any of the teen romance. It's just, I get it, like, the idea is to grow. You wanted the characters to grow with the audience, and when you're 14, 15 is when you start getting into dating and girls and boys and all that stuff. But it's just not what I want in my Harry Potter movie, and it could have been implemented so much better. I don't like this movie. I think I'm at this point. I think this is a bad movie. I don't think this is a good movie. I don't. There's not one scene where I'm, like, wowed by anything in it.
Somehow, I still enjoy all these movies. I can recognize, like, what needs to get fixed, and what just can't be in there. But, like, I still enjoy this movie. I don't know why. I just, like,
That's fair.
I don't enjoy it as much anymore as I used to, and definitely not as much as, like, the other ones. But
growing up, it was my favorite.
There's, like, this one was.
Well, there is. I forgot to mention there's one cool transition that I like, and it's when Harry flies back after defeating the dragon, and it's a transition shot of him grabbing. You see in the egg the reflection of Harry flying towards it, and then it like match cuts to the egg being risen, and it's like the next scene in the corridor, and Harry's, like, raising up the egg. It's like just like a nice sort of match cut transition with a little bit of decent camera movement, and that's the thing, is nothing looks particular. I do think the color correction in this movie is disgusting. It looks awful, but I will say, like, from, like, just a shot perspective, nothing's poorly shot. It's just this movie has the misfortune of coming right after Prisoner of Azkaban, which is just filled with gorgeous cinematography, and it's just so uninteresting in this movie. So it's not poorly shot, it's just not well shot. Yeah, but that's really my thoughts on Goblet of Fire. I'm not sure if you have anything left.
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
No?
Let's
Shall
get
we,
on to the order. But
yeah.
I do have to pee.
Yeah, go for it. I'm sweating so bad.
Oh, dude, I got the fan on.
If I hear that in the editing, Josh, I'm gonna get you.
I put it on a light mode.
And I can't hear it through this, so we should be all right. Okay, shall we get into it? We probably gotta. I don't want to say cut anything short, but be, I guess, a little snappier with this one.
I will be, like, yeah. I definitely have more to say on 3 and 4.
Yeah, You ready?
Well, yeah.
All right. All right, guys, and we are back after a brief commercial break. So we are moving on to our last movie we are discussing in today's episode, and that is, of course, the fifth Harry Potter film, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which, if you were curious, I did mention on last episode, but is the longest book and second shortest movie. So that's fun. And
Jake is excited for that.
Yes, I am, because I like short movies. No, but so this one, Mike Newell leaves the director's chair, which again is it's always shocking because it's the movie we didn't really mention, but Goblet of Fire has really good audience and critic reviews. It made almost $900 million. It did, by all intents and purposes, it was a massive success. But yeah, Mike Newell is not returning this time around. Instead, we get director David Yates, who I actually probably should have done a little bit more research, and I'll sort of do it right now, but I don't really think I'm familiar with any of David Yates' work outside of Harry Potter. Are you?
Honestly, no, I don't think I am either, but I'm trying to get him.
I'm looking at his movies. So for anyone wondering, David Yates also will not only do this film, but will go on to direct Half-Blood Prince and both Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. So the changes in style and tone don't really happen after this movie, per se. The movies definitely get darker as they go along story-wise, but in terms of like actual style and how things are presented, it's pretty consistent after this. But he also did the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies, so they brought him back to do the prequel movies, which, man, those prequel movies suck, but that's a topic for a different day. Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix, for a long, long time, was my second favorite Harry Potter movie. I would say up until a couple of hours ago when I rewatched it for this podcast.
Which is wild, because all I've heard Jake say is just like the best things about this movie, so I'm very curious to see the shift.
And what it is I think that, again, I keep bringing it up, but guys, it's so crucial to discussions, is I have never watched this movie I've never watched this movie and taken notes. I've only watched this, sure, with a critical eye, as I do most films, but I've never gone into it looking for things that may detract from the overall score, quality of the film, whatever you want to call it. And this time around, what I kind of felt is that first half of this movie, not that good. Honestly, maybe the most boring out of any of the 5 Harry Potter films that we've talked about so far in terms of like the first hour. Not great. But the second half is so good and so fun.
When do you think it stops becoming boring?
I think when does Harry start training the kids and starts Dumbledore's army? Because I think once that plot kicks off is when I get really invested in the movie.
Okay. That's pretty, like, that's not, there's definitely more than half the movie left with after that comes, I think. I feel like maybe an hour.
Some of that is ruined, though, because of the Harry and Cho Chang stuff.
That could be cut, like, as quick as possible. But, yeah.
I don't like Cho Chang.
All right, so I kind of like the opening here.
Yes,
now,
okay, it's a good opening.
I have my problems with it in terms of the ministry. Maybe I still don't understand it. So, I mean, okay, we can kind of just, like, do the premise thing.
Yeah. We probably should start reading like the IMDb or like.
Let's just do that because I think, yeah, I noticed your synopsis can be very, very detailed.
They are, and I definitely over explain. Let's do what. Let's go with what the internet says, which may or may not be a great one. So the short synopsis on IMDb. Oh, if anyone was wondering, this film boasts a 7.5 on IMDb. And that's 642,000 reviews. Okay. So the little synopsis reads, with their warning about Lord Voldemort's return scoffed at Harry and Dumbledore are targeted by the wizard authorities as an authoritarian bureaucrat slowly seizes power at Hogwarts. Shit, that's way more concise than what I was going to say.
I really thought you were going to read one of these long IMDb synopsis.
No, just the one that when you first click on
good.
it.
Good.
Yeah, that's a good setup. But yeah, that's basically it. After the last movie, Harry says Voldemort's back, but he was the only one to really see him. So there's a lot of doubters, and a lot of the film revolves around that. And the big, I guess villain, quote unquote, of the movie is not really even Voldemort, but more so the Ministry. And they're kind of working in Hogwarts and putting their fingers in the dish.
Now their whole thing is they just want to reject the fact that Voldemort's back out of fear, I guess, because they're not doing it out of they just don't want to acknowledge the truth. What is does that mean they deep down know that he's come back, or do they actually believe that he's not back? Because they're doing everything they can to just prove Harry guilty and have him expelled.
Yeah.
Once he's detected from using a Patronus charm.
Which, how did they know?
Well, they can detect magic, but the thing is, you don't detect that there's
magic.
I guess.
What?
Oh my God! A big problem in the third one is it opens up with him doing magic, and nothing happens.
Well, see, that's not a problem until this movie. Because in the third one,
it was always a
he
rule.
Genuinely does something bad. He blows up his aunt.
That's accidental.
He blows up his aunt, which I could see that could get around because Muggles would have seen that, right? I think they say Muggles saw her or whatever. But in that one, he goes and he's like, "Am I in trouble?" And Fudge is like, "Nah, you're good." And then in this one, he's defending himself from a Dementor attack, and he gets expelled.
Yeah. So the whole thing is do they not? They can detect magic being used in the face of Muggles, but do they not see that Dementors are there either? I don't know if there's that's unclear. But anyway, I think it's a very different kind of opening, and I think it's a nice kind of setup to kind of lure you into what Harry's going to be dealing with in terms of not only dealing with Voldemort's return, but kind of battling this Ministry interference. I think that's all good setup, and I think it's pretty good payoff overall.
Oh yeah, you also get you get one of the best characters in the series.
So you're a big fan of Dolores.
Dolores Umbridge is a fucking phenomenal villain because they do such a great job at making you fucking despise her.
Yeah, that fucking giggle. Oh my God.
It's wild, man.
Or when she clears her throat.
Dude, she's got a bunch of cats on her wall and has a bunch of cats in her office. It's
she's
wild.
A big cat lady.
Big cat lady.
And she puts so much fucking sugar in her small cup of tea, but whatever.
I also I love how because this is when they really start desaturating the colors in these movies. And this is the one where everyone wears usually in Harry Potter they wear very muted earth tone color kind of clothing. And then in this one, he just get fucking Umbridge with the brightest pink clothing in every scene. It's just a delight.
So what I like about this, in terms of color, they do get dimmer, but this one brings it back a little bit from the fourth one. The fourth one is very, I don't know, tan.
It's muddy.
It's
looking.
Tan. Yeah, muddy. Muddy's good, but even when you're in the Great Hall, besides the opening in the fourth one, which has the candle lit kind of look a little bit, it still kind of has that mud look. Every other scene in there is just candles are out, everything's dim, and it just doesn't feel appropriate yet. This one, it
looks
kind of
better.
It brings a little warmth back. I think the Ministry scenes look really good.
Dude, the Ministry, the Hall of Mysteries
the
or
Department
whatever.
Of Mysteries?
Department of Mysteries looks spectacular.
Even just the dream sequences where it's just the black tiled hallway. That just looks so good, I thought, and it's very simple.
Oh yeah.
But there's just variety in this, and it just kind of feels like back to the third one, not as good looking, but it just knows when it needs to change temperature, dial color back, put color in. I don't know. So I did like that David Yates kind of brought that feel back to this.
Visually, it's definitely a step up from the fourth, without a doubt.
Yeah. But yeah, so Dolores is now in place of the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
Which, for the Ministry's defense, I'm not supporting the Ministry, but in their defense, after the last 4 picks by Dumbledore, I think maybe somebody else should be choosing the Ministry, or should be choosing the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. So, not saying it should be Umbridge, but I'm just saying, he's not a great selector.
But let's just talk about this Dumbledore.
Awful.
Not really with his performance, just how he's written. He's giving Harry the cold shoulder,
the
trying
whole
to
movie.
distance himself from it. And I just don't get it. I get why he says he does it, but you're telling me you can't just let the guy know, or have you know what? Why don't you tell McGonagall the situation and have her just say, "Listen, Harry, it's not you. Guy's just trying to distance himself to protect you." Instead of just having this constant boring mystery, like this unneeded mystery. It's the same thing. It's like every movie has one of these where it's like you're just doing it to create.
This one, I
distance
think,
or
might
mystery.
have the worst mystery, though. I think the whole thing with, I guess, the prophecy, I think that's really stupid.
If they just don't give you as much to hold on to. Like, why? I don't know. I think the why is just missing. Maybe if they told you,
they do this weird thing. And speaking of the Department of Mystery scene, this is when we didn't really say it, but in the last movie, Goblet of Fire, at the end, it's revealed Lucius Malfoy, Draco's father, is one of the Death Eaters. But in this one, he returns again, and he shows up at the Department of Mysteries along with the other. There's a whole scene where you see Azkaban get attacked, and this is where you meet Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange, another fan favorite character.
You mean when they blow up Azkaban and somehow everyone's fine? It's just
they just blow
a
huge fucking hole in that wall. I love that scene though, because she walks out and it zooms out and she's just laughing this maniacal. She's such a great maniacal laugh.
What a great addition to the series! She's one of the best.
I remember now as an adult, I'm extremely attracted to Bellatrix Lestrange, but as a kid, I was very scared of her.
Oh, me too.
There was something she's so psychotic in every scene.
I became attracted to Helena in every movie she's in.
She's gorgeous.
But I never used to. When I was little, I just never found her appealing.
Because this is where I'm definitely problematic, because I find her so much more attractive in this than I do in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Or, no, Willy Wonka's and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yeah, Charlie.
Which one is she? She's in the Tim Burton one, but...
Yeah, she's in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You like her more in Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, to some about the craziness. It just
too.
Works. I like it.
Yeah, her outfits are better too.
Okay, guys. Again, big spoilers. If you don't want to know anything about these, I don't know why you're still listening. But if
you're somehow 3 hours in,
I assume you have all seen Harry Potter, because everybody has seen Harry Potter. They kill Sirius Black at the end of the movie, and when Bellatrix Lestrange, she sneaks away and she's laughing and she's yelling. She's like, "I killed Sirius Black. I killed." She brings such an energy and life to the role that I don't think I could picture anybody else. Maybe Winona Ryder playing her.
Really?
Yeah, I could see Winona doing it. I feel like they were very similar in their early days. I guess this isn't early, but
that moment that she kills him, there's a really different kind of delivery in her expression before she vanishes. It almost looked like she was kind of she was sympathizing a little bit, but then she kind of smirks. Then she smirks. But I don't know if you remember that, but she kind of just has this this downcast look.
She does. And they are related.
I don't know.
They do go out of their way to tell you that they are cousins, which
maybe that was something. I don't know.
Speaking of
I
that,
thought was a very nice.
I love, because you only get the one scene of Sirius in Goblet of Fire, and it's the fire scene, but you really get him back in this movie quite a bit. And Gary Oldman is just so great as this character. And I guess because I don't know, we didn't really discuss how we each individually felt about it, but the Cedric death doesn't really land for me. I get it. It's sad that a student died, but I just didn't personally care about that character.
It doesn't land because you don't know why Harry is so like. I get why he's affected, but
yeah,
you don't feel why he should be because they weren't close. He talks about him as if they were friends. They weren't.
Yeah,
at all. Really,
they talked like maybe 4 times.
Yeah, so I just wish they built that to have this lingering sadness mean something a little bit more.
Whereas in this one, the serious death, it does get me. Like, it does hit me on the emotional levels. Like, the only thing that does bother me is when we're shown Avada Kedavra in the last movie, it like insta kills Cedric, whereas in this movie, Gary Oldman, Sirius gets hit with Avada Kedavra by Bellatrix and kind of just like it looks like he has a couple more seconds of life before being sucked into that the soul
it's inconsistent there
portal or whatever, which I wanted to bring up a little bit because one thing we didn't really talk about yet, another addition in this movie that I feel like you're gonna be in the minority in this one. I feel like you don't like this character, but I really like Luna Lovegood.
Oh, no, I like her.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were going to be like, no, she's too weird and quirky, because I feel like I could see that being a criticism, but...
Oh, no, yeah, no, I do like her. I get that she might annoy some people. My problem is just kind of like catapulting these students that have been in this school for all these years, and they just like abruptly are introduced. I just... same thing with Cedric. I just wish we had like some more... just like even just see them in passing.
Agreed.
You know?
Like, because again, I think if J.K. Rowling had these planned out, like a couple books ahead, then she would have had Cedric appear more in earlier books, and Luna would have been in the earlier books. But I do love her implementation because I agree with you. I get where I could see people being annoyed with her because she has that like manic pixie dream girl vibe where she's just very weird and quirky and out there and says really like obscure shit. And I could see that bothering people, but I really particularly just love how her and Harry bond. And the way that they do this is in 2 specific scenes where you first meet her, and this is the first time that Harry is seeing, which is a little bit of an illogical consistency because I understand that he was a baby, but he did see his mother die. So Harry should have seen these creatures already before, but this is the first time he's seeing them because he saw Cedric die, and you're told that what pulls the carts, what are they, carts? Yeah. Is that what they're carts?
The
wagons?
The carriages?
Carriages, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. The carriages, you're assuming that they're pulling themselves, and Ron's like, what do you mean? The carriages are pulling themselves like they always do. And Luna's like, no, I see them too. And it's revealed only people who have seen death can see these creatures. And then they do it again towards the end with that soul portal, as when they get there, it's like an archway, and everybody else but Luna and Harry see it as just an empty archway, whereas they see these souls swirling around and they hear voices. So I just like those 2 little things of them bonding over grief and loss. It was a nice addition in my opinion, and it worked well for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird like brother sister relationship they have. Like you kind of feel that. I want to go back though because I'm to Sirius's death, because something I do hate in that scene. A couple things maybe because I remember, I can't remember exactly how it went, but I remember really just liking how he died in the books a lot more.
Is it different?
First off, I think it's a little drawn out a little bit, where it's not so abrupt. Because I do think he gets defeated a little too easily in the movie. And maybe that's the point. I don't know. But one thing I hate in the movie is when he says, "Nice one, James."
No, I love that.
Fucking hate it.
Really?
No. Oh my. Yes. That like.
All right. Well,
that doesn't seem like.
Yeah. So, what do you dislike?
I dislike that. That's like a slap in the face to Harry. Harry's not his own person, kind of thing. Like it doesn't seem like Sirius would do that. Like the whole thing is Sirius is trying to like console Harry and comfort Harry and kind of like make him feel like you are like you're your own person. You're who you choose to be. We all have this inside of us. But that just kind of just felt like, oh, like, first off, I don't know if that was like, what was that supposed to even mean?
See, I think
I
that's...
get like what it's probably trying to tell me. But
Yeah.
you're so much like your father. I fucking get it. Everyone says it in the whole
No,
series.
see, I don't read it that way, and I might be wrong. I'm not going to say that you interpret it or read it wrong, but I think the context of the scene, and again, maybe it's different in the book, but the way I have always read it is it's a heat of the moment Freudian slip, that he is so much like his father that just in the heat of the battle, Sirius, being James's best friend, says, "Nice one, James." It's a slip of the tongue. I don't think he's actually like trying to call Harry James. I think it's just a slip because he is so much like his father and he was his father's best friend.
And even if that was the case, I think that is so on the nose for me. That's like
I like it.
Really, like, did you really slip? Did you really, like, I don't know.
They're dueling. They're having a cool wizard duel.
It felt cringy. It just felt cringy to me.
Ooh, okay.
And the fact that those were his last words pissed me off.
I'll be honest. I know this Harry Potter community. That's a hot take, Josh. That's like a big moment that people like.
I hate it.
I like it. I don't know, because it's sad. It's just,
you know why?
fucking
Because
sad.
it does not feel like a moment between him and Harry at all. And those are his last words. It's not emotional. It's not meaningful.
No,
to
but
Harry.
there's not his last words. Before he dies, he goes, "Ugh."
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, he lets out that gasp.
How do you feel, since we're still on this scene, how do you feel about right after Sirius's death with cutting the audio of Harry screaming? I don't know if you've read why it got cut, but I'm curious how you feel about it.
Oh, I no, I like it. I'm a fan sometimes of just cutting the sound. I think that can sometimes just build more of that emotional.
Yeah, I like it
delivery
too.
Almost.
It works, and again, I think Daniel really, really does a great job in this movie in a lot of scenes. But in this moment, apparently, I read this a couple years ago. I may be just Mandela effect misremembering this, but I recall reading a trivia fact that said that they cut the audio because Daniel Radcliffe's screams were too heartbreaking.
I read that. I don't believe it.
Okay, you
I
saw
don't
that
believe
too?
it. I read that too. I don't buy it one fucking second.
Yeah. I will say on kind of a similar note, but I do love this delivery. It's when he has the dream of Arthur Weasley getting attacked, and McGonagall and Ron bring Harry to Dumbledore's office, and this goes back to what you were saying, where Dumbledore is giving him the cold shoulder, as Dumbledore is really not paying any attention or mind to Harry in this scene. It's Harry, all the Weasleys are gathered, and it's McGonagall there, and Dumbledore is just frantic, talking to the paintings, telling people to go check the Ministry, check what's happening with Arthur Weasley, and Harry's clearly getting more and more frustrated. And I do actually really like this delivery from Daniel Radcliffe, where he just screams out, "Look at me!" And it's such a better delivery than like in Prisoner of Azkaban, when he he tries to, he was their friend. That felt like a director telling a kid to act a certain way. Whereas in this film, maybe it's because Daniel's a little older, definitely has probably more to do with just him having more experience, this being the fifth film, but the way Daniel says it in that scene, it really works for me. Like it really feels like the character is that frustrated and upset in that moment. I don't know if you...
No, I like it. You know what I like even more?
What's
I
up?
like Dumbledore's just look at him. He just I love when he looks at him. He just looks fucking... He either looks terrified or pissed off. He's like, "Did you just fucking raise your voice at me?" He just wide-eyes him for 5 seconds.
Yeah. To be fair, and like you were talking about, and this is a big issue I have with this movie. I think you brought it up earlier. I hate the way Dumbledore is written in this movie. Like you said, it just does not make any sense why he would distance himself from Harry. It just feels super irresponsible on his part, especially
I don't get how would that distance Voldemort at all?
Yeah.
Like, you're you're so smart, but like, how did you think that was the thing to do?
And this is the film where Harry goes through the most, I'd say, in terms of the emotional ringer, because he has very clear PTSD from watching Cedric die. Which, yeah, I mean, like, granted, we talked about how, like, for me, it wasn't so much that Harry was upset, because, like, imagine being in high school, and even if you, like, loosely knew the person, like, if you saw someone that you were going to high school with die in front of you, it would be really impactful. Like, it would fuck you up, and it does hurt Harry a lot, and it's shown that he has nightmares about it, and, you know, Dudley makes fun of it.
It doesn't hurt him that much. I mean, he does make out with Cho in front of his shrine.
Yo, Harry a dog for that. That's wild, man. I hate that scene. Mistletoe. Oh my god, it's just... the issue is not even just the romance, it's that Daniel Radcliffe and that actress have zero chemistry. They're not once shown to have any on-screen chemistry, so the whole thing falls flat.
How do you feel about the room of requirement?
That seems a little convenient.
Yeah. All of a sudden in the 5th film, and we've never seen it once in the 4 films. Yeah. You're telling me no one ever had a need for this room?
They probably could have put the Sorcerer's Stone in there.
Yeah, like, and Neville is the one that needed it the most. Like, Neville's the one that found it.
Yeah, and
that's
no
crazy
reason.
to me.
He's just walking.
Yeah, and it's because he was like, it's right after he was bullied too.
Yeah, I will say the comedy in this movie, because I think that was intended to be a little funny, but the comedy is not nearly as good as Prisoner in this one. It's better than 4, but how do you feel about, like, the kind of main, like, Harry's main plot of feeling really isolated in this movie and feeling as if, like, he is Voldemort in a sense, like, and he's too similar to Voldemort?
Oh, I love that part of this film. I love that we take a little dive into his mental state, and that you get more of that that question of how are these two connected, is like, because you could see a change in Harry himself.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it builds their relationship a lot better, between Harry and Voldemort, at least.
Agreed. And I think it does, like you said, it severely pays off, like in the scene when Voldemort is in Harry's mind. Other than I hate when they cut to Voldemort, because it is the worst, like, CGI background I've seen since watching Baywatch.
I don't even know what's behind him. It's like brown, like, swirls. I don't know, like, what's...
It looks bad. But other than that, this is too another, again, just applause to Daniel Radcliffe, because I think his performance and delivery in the scene is excellent when he's like, you're the coward, you're the weak one, you have you love nobody, and that's why you'll lose. And when Harry hits him with the I feel sorry for you, something about that just kind of hits. It's like, it's not just like hatred, like you killed my mom, it's you have nothing. I think that is kind of a badass line from Harry.
Oh, it sends him way out of his body. It sends Voldemort packing. Dude packs his bags and gets out of his head.
I think that's fantastic, but I mean, since we're kind of at that spot, the fucking wizard battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort is the coolest fucking thing that happens in this whole series.
It pisses me off. Like, how, even because it's weird, because it's the same director. It's his first film doing this. How do you not, like, there's no way you thought it looked bad, so why did you just not do at least one scene in all your movies like that?
Dude, it is so fucking cool. And this is where I sound like a 16-year-old boy who likes Transformers movies, but it's just cool. It's
just
well
interesting.
shot.
It's interesting.
It is, dude. It's like, not just random colorful spells, and it's not two stupid wands linking. It starts out that way for like half a second, and then.
But I'm fine with that, because even then, Voldemort is like, he's like creating like lightning bolts from it. Like, it's so it makes that strand. Actually, hold on. How do their strands connect? The whole thing is because Harry and Voldemort are like connected. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But right after the wands break, dude, and fucking Voldemort first, he conjures up a fucking giant flame monster and goes after
a fucking dragon,
a fucking flame dragon, and then like Dumbledore does this weird like Avatar: The Last Airbender thing where he like pulls the water out of the fountain and like tries like drowning Voldemort in this ball of water. It's so
How
cool.
does he not drown him? He kind of just lets the spell go. You could have just kept him in that ball.
Oh no, I thought he doesn't he like burst out of it? I thought he like.
Oh, he might.
I think like Voldemort like bursts out of it because that's when I forget if it's before or after because I think one of the next spells is Voldemort casts like this like I don't know what it is, but it's like the power of evil. It's like
dude,
this,
it's just
like,
released energy.
yeah, it's like
to
black energy, like this black energy matter, like coming at. Oh, dude, and the glass, and it's the best fight scene in this entire franchise. And
Even
it's a
like
shame
the,
because we have 3 more movies left.
I know, like even the sound design, like with some of these spells, like when he does that
yeah.
black magic, and it's just like this like whipping sound of like wind,
Yeah.
and like.
Dude, I didn't even catch the sound design, but you're so right. It's like it's just so excellent.
They're just like punches. It's like just like punches after punches. Like it just I don't know. It just really hits you. It's not because even in the fight before, as like even though those spells are just like bolts of light. Dude, I love the nonverbal shit so much more. It's just so much better. Let me tell you, I hate stupefy. I fucking hate it.
I don't hate it. I just hate that they say it 30 fucking times.
Yes.
Is that the only spell Harry taught you? Everyone's like
crazy.
Harry's a great teacher. He taught you 3 spells. Chill the fuck
Can
out.
I ask why they're using stupefy all the time when Ginny's like belting out this reducto and like does this like insane damage?
Yo,
like just use
Ginny's
better spells.
Ginny's kind of badass in this movie.
Yeah, I just wish. Oh, we didn't even talk about Ginny. Ginny fucking sucks in these movies, man. Compared to the book, she's so much better in the books. But that's going to be a later topic in the next movie, I think.
Well, if you ask, it will. It will. Oh, it will. You know how I feel about Half-Blood Prince. Oh, you know I'm ready for that, boy. You know I'm ready.
Yeah. But yeah,
fucking
this
come
magic
down on
going
that movie
on,
like the Wrath of God.
All right, that's enough. That's crazy. That's wild.
But yeah. Oh, I didn't mention it, but you said you liked the beginning. I do like that Dementor scene. I just think it's unfortunate that I don't think the Dementors look as good as they did in Prisoner of Azkaban, and maybe it's the way that they were done in the VFX room or the way that David Yates shot it as opposed to Alfonso Cuarón. But I just felt like they had so much more of a presence in that third movie than in this one. Like do they
look that different?
Yeah, because in the third one their hoods are always up, and then in this one the hoods are down, and I just don't think it looks as good.
They're definitely more shadowy in the third one.
And again, it goes back to like where they're shown in the third film. There's always like very dark lighting, night skies. In this one, because they have that scene take place in a tunnel that has lighting, I think the VFX actually look a little worse. And I don't know. I don't like how Harry just smacks him.
I like that set that they have in that tunnel.
It's a cool set, but yeah, I don't like how Harry smacks the Dementor with his wand.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, he like smacks it and then like casts the Patronus charm. But I did like seeing Dudley all like traumatized after getting his soul nearly sucked out. I think that was like a fun little thing. Nice to see bad characters. Oh, speaking of bad characters getting their due, I love how, like I said, I love how much they make you hate Umbridge, but it is so fucking satisfying when
I know
the centaurs just fucking. They like put a noose around her neck and like fucking drag her.
Yeah. And what's that spell she did where she like casted the rope to strangle her? Like do that fucking spell to people.
She's kind of powerful. Like when she uses magic in this, dude, she, again, we didn't really talk about her character too much other than how much I like her, but she is fucking psychotic. Like if you guys haven't seen the movie in a while, the thing that sticks out is obviously when she tortures students by like carving words into their hand, like burning words into their hand with her magic. That is...
Oh, dude, she almost used the Cruciatus curse on Harry.
Oh, shit, dude, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That bothers me, though, because, okay, can someone explain to me what these unforgivable curses do? Apparently, according to Mad Eye in the last one, it's a one-way ticket to Azkaban as soon as you use it. So...
That's
like,
the
when
thing,
people
right?
Use it,
they can detect magic, Josh.
Yeah, no. Like... And what? So all you have to do is just make sure a picture of someone that could catch you is just flat on the ground, and you use it, and no one knows.
Yeah,
it doesn't
get
make
that.
sense.
I don't get that, but I love how they get back at Umbridge. Obviously, Fred and George, they go out with a bang. They get expelled.
Oh, that scene's. I love that.
It's
that
delightful.
Scene's just pretty with the fireworks. Like,
it's excellent. I love it. One thing that I do think is a little too on the nose in this movie is the constant reference to storms and a storm coming. They do this a couple of times, and like Hagrid has like a whole scene where he's like, "There's a storm coming, Harry. I mean, you got to be ready for it." And I was like, "Wait, Hermione and Ron are in the scene. Do they also not need to be ready for the storm?" How do you feel about Groppy?
No, I could take him or leave him. Like,
I don't think he looks that good.
Oh,
like when he's picking up Hermione, I don't think that looks quite convincing.
Yeah, he looks all right. It's like I'm not blown away by his look, but I'm not. I guess I didn't really notice if he looked bad or not. No, he was kind of like a nothing part of the movie though for me. It seemed a little convenient that like he introduced Grop to them right when like the next day they bring Umbridge into the forest.
That's another thing in this movie, and I love that you highlighted in Prisoner of Azkaban how they do a great job at showing the transition between seasons. I like in this one, I have a really hard time knowing when in the school year any of these scenes take place. Like they string together the scenes of Harry training Dumbledore's army, like all the students and whatnot, and I never quite know how much time is in between each scene. Like it's not really conveyed well.
It's not conveyed as well, but I think it's conveyed better than other films because it's at least showing you like a montage of like, oh, new rules going up on the wall, new lessons in the room of requirements. So you kind of get this feeling of time passing, kind of like a good amount of it. So at least I'm not like, it's not jarring when the next scene, a Christmas tree is in my face. You know, it's like,
oh yeah, shit, I forgot because the cuts and they're in the training room and there's because they kiss under the mistletoe. Cho just does not need to be in this movie.
No, not at all. But another problem I have with the room of requirement, I don't like the Filch integration, and I don't like the
Draco and them being like, what is that?
I don't like that, and like the chase, like of trying to like catch them in the room requirement, that whole like montage, I don't care for. I also don't like the fact that the room requirement is in like the most obvious spot of all time. It like there's like the longest hallway that's so public that can just see it. Why is this not like all the way upstairs in a tower?
Yeah.
That like,
but like also why like logistically why did it take so long for Umbridge to? Because they show multiple scenes of Filch and them seeing where the door is. Could they just not bring her there and do the thing where she explodes the wall or whatever?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I was going to say that. Like, why don't you do that bomb spell, like, right as soon as you know someone's going into a door?
Yeah, it's... And why?
I know you... Yeah. Like, why is that so easy to get into? You'd expect a room requirement to have, like, some, like, security in its walls. I don't know.
Yeah, it's... How do you feel about the overall cinematography of the movie? I feel like it's well shot for the most part, but...
Well, so like I said, I liked like the different parts of it. Like I talked about the Ministry a little bit. I think I don't notice as much of like good camera work as I do in the third one, but in terms of like actual sets, and I guess that's kind of where I kind of like stopped. Like I didn't really notice like that anything like anything exceptional in like his camera techniques or anything like that. Yeah. So I don't know if you did, and I just missed it. But I think this film just has like a very, I think it just has. A more like attractive style to it. I guess because I'm comparing it to the fourth one.
Goblet. Yeah. No, definitely over Goblet, like we said. There's a couple shots I like. Nothing as nearly as good as the first. The third film. But yeah, there's a couple shots I like. I like when they're all like Harry, and then when they get to the Ministry, when they're like surrounded because they all have their wands in the middle. It's very reminiscent and I don't know if you remember this. Probably, I don't know when the last time you saw Lord of the Rings was, but in Fellowship of the Ring, when they're in the mines and they get surrounded, and like their only light source is Gandalf's staff, and it's kind of similar in that regard. I do like that chase scene overall. I will say though, when it comes to the editing and cinematography in this movie, I think the action suffers a little bit. But there is one really good swooping camera movement, and it's when the battle between the Order and the Death Eaters really kicks off, like when the adults arrive, which I feel like you don't like this, but I love when Sirius walks up and punches Malfoy in the face.
Hate it.
I see.
I hate
I
it.
love it. That was Gary Oldman's idea, too.
I don't like it.
I
don't
like
like
it.
It's the same thing that I didn't like with Quirrell in the first one. Like, why are you strangling when you have magic? It's just
Because, dude, what's more satisfying? I love it. He goes, "Get away from my godson." Punches him. Oh, I love it. I love it. But no, right when that kicks off, right after he does that, that's when the Order arrives. And I do like how when they're traveling, their light is like a very bright goldish color. And when the Death Eaters move around, it's like very dark, shadowy.
yeah.
But when they show up, there's like a great moment where they all start arriving and the battle starts kicking off, and it is like a really great swooping camera movement going around as like the characters are starting to battle and fight, and it's a great wizard fight. I really, not nearly as good as Dumbledore and Voldemort, but like as far as like a collective group on group, I have a lot of fun with that part.
There was one part I really liked of that, and it's when you see one of the Death Eaters and one of the Order like kind of like intermingle, and it's like a swirl of like white and black that kind of like goes up. It's like it's like in the middle of that like that camera motion.
Yeah.
But it's like in the background, which is what I like. It's not like the main focus. It's just kind of happening like in the...
There is a lot of good stuff in this film. I guess that's something that David Yates does kind of continue over from what Alfonso Cuarón did. Again, not to the same level, but he does use the foreground and the background in some interesting ways in this movie. I guess there's not a ton like directorially that I can point to in this film that like I think David Yates is a very solid, competent director. I don't think he ever does anything that really detracts from the film's quality in terms of his directing, but I also don't know if I'd necessarily say anything that he does elevates it. But there is one really, and it's a little on the nose, but there is one creative blocking scene in this film between Umbridge and McGonagall when they're going up the stairs, and every time one of the other gets a leg up in the argument, they take a step above them until obviously Umbridge is winning the argument and just finally surpasses McGonagall and takes a couple steps up.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Every time like McGonagall makes a point and like defends the student, she takes a step up the stairs, and she's taller than Umbridge, and then Umbridge retorts and has a rebuttal, and then she steps above her, and it was the one scene where I was like, oh, there's a couple scenes where, you know, like the scene actually I don't like the scene for Hermione's character, but like when they're on the bridge and they're walking, it's when right after Harry gives the pretty good speech to the students and they're deciding to, okay, Harry's going to train these kids. There's the shot on the bridge, and it is like a decent tracking shot following them, and that's when Hermione's like, oh, it's exciting breaking the rules, and Ron's like, oh, who are you, and what have you done with Hermione? And it's a weird, cringy little exchange, but... So
I think what David Yates does, and maybe he has the benefit of them just aging, but I think he gets the best out of them.
I
mostly
necessarily
Harry.
Agree.
Really?
I was going to say, I agree with... I definitely think this is where I start to not forgive Emma Watson as much, where I feel like there are some... Like, there's the one little weird scene where, like, they're in the common room, and it's after Harry and Cho have kissed, and Hermione has to explain why Cho has conflicting feelings to the boys, and... she like insults Ron, and that's a
great line.
He laughs, but then she like starts laughing maniacally. She starts like uncontrollably laughing after that, as if she said the funniest shit.
Yeah, I that scene always kind of like not really confused me, but it was just off. Like I didn't know.
You know what I decided this time? They filmed that scene and kept that specifically so they could use that in the scene later when Harry's trying to battle Voldemort in his mind and he's thinking about his friends, because it shows that shot of Hermione laughing.
Yeah,
it's just like
I'll be honest,
three other movies to use.
Her line is good. Her insult is good to Ron, I think.
What did she say? She says you have the emotional range of a teaspoon.
Yeah.
That is good. That is. She's a little snappy in this movie. Also, I don't know. They do like weird stuff to try to build up Harry and Ginny. Like when Hermione mentions that Cho was looking at Harry, and it shows like a brief shot of Ginny, and she like is kind of sad, and then they just continue on. when Harry walks to her, Ginny looks back and it's like, ugh. You haven't talked to each other. He saved you like 3 years ago in the Chamber of Secrets, and they haven't talked since.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have a lot of notes and thoughts about this movie. It's the one that I think, because they're really, I don't know if you'd agree with me saying this, but I think why there's not as much to talk about in this one is every other movie in this franchise that we've talked about so far has a plot. This movie doesn't really have a plot, if you get what I mean.
This one feels almost like setup, but also aftermath. It's like kind of like that mix.
Yeah. Wow, that's actually a really clever way to put it. No, it really is, because it's like the characters reeling from what happened in the last movie and setting up some stuff that'll happen in the later movies. But narratively, there's like in the first movie, trying to figure out the Sorcerer's Stone, who's after it. Second one, what's the Chamber of Secrets? Who opened it? What's that about? Third one, Sirius Black is coming. He's coming for you, Harry. That sets that up. Fourth one, the Triwizard Tournament, and who put Harry's name in the goblet. And then in this one, when you try to think of like what's the driving force of the plot, there really isn't one. It's just the Ministry interfering with Hogwarts and people not believing Harry that Voldemort's back. So there's not really a driving narrative force, and I think that's why when I said, like, this is half a good movie, I think, like, the first, maybe it's not hour, but maybe it's, like, the first 40, 45 minutes of the movie, most of the first act, while there is stuff I like, I enjoy seeing Harry, and I will say, side note, Tonks, super hot. Nymphadora,
she's attractive.
Nymphadora
she is attractive.
Gorgeous. But, I like the scene of them flying over London. I think that looks visually pretty good. It's a fun little scene. We haven't really seen them fly anywhere else outside of Hogwarts grounds before, so I enjoyed seeing that. But it's just stuff where it's like there's nothing going on in that first act where I'm like, what's the plot of this movie? There's nothing. There's no hook really, if that makes sense. But
maybe the hook just isn't as strong because I mean, yeah, I don't. It's.
But again, the second half is great. I love, especially from the second they get to the Ministry on, I pretty much love all of that. Mm-hmm. I very much enjoy it. But yeah, it's just that first act that kind of slows.
But again, like I think, so there was one thing I saw when I was kind of like doing some research on the fourth one, and someone said that the movie is just like it sacrifices character for action. And that's what I appreciate about the fifth one is that even though you don't have that hook that you have in all the other four, I think that kind of helps it.
Was it Cosmonaut Variety Hour?
I don't remember.
Was it all Harry Potter movies reviewed part 1? And the thumbnail was like Harry's face, the ending of the third one?
I'd have to see. I don't remember. Hold on. I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Because I love Cosmonaut. His real name's Marcus. He's really smart, and his takes on the Harry Potter movies I tend to kind of agree with, but...
Let me see here. Fuck.
Because I feel like I've heard that phrase, that this movie suffers... It exchanges, character for action, and I actually fully agree with that. Even though I will say I do kind of like what they do with Harry in this movie. I do like them making him feel isolated... But also, Harry's kind of a dick in this movie. I get that he's suffering from PTSD, but he's kind of mopey. Like, he's really mopey for a lot of this movie.
He's kind of worse in the book, though, I think. I think he's, like, a little bit more snippy and angsty in the book.
I've been told and read that people who read the books, or recently, I have read the books, but again, been a very long time. But apparently he is much more sassy in the books.
Yeah,
but when he's sassy in the movies, it comes across like a dick. Sorry.
No, I was gonna. What did you say? What page? For the
what
the
video?
Harry Potter thing? Yeah, what video?
Was the guy's name Cosmonaut Variety Hour?
No, it's Trope Anatomy.
Trope Anatomy. I don't know if I've heard of that one. I'll have to check that channel out.
Yeah, really good video on Goblet of Fire. I might check out his other ones.
Yeah. I years ago I wanted to make a comparison video on Prisoner of Azkaban versus Order of the Phoenix, because mainly I wanted to compare like how they handle Dementors. But either way, my overall, because I feel like we're kind of nearing the end of this, unless you have much more to talk about. I wrote down in my notes, man, Gary Oldman just steals the show. I love every scene with him and Harry. He just is great. I wrote in my notes, the movie's a little slow so far. I like that they bring the robes back. I think I already mentioned that when we were talking about the last movie, but they like wear their robes a lot more in this one. In the third one, they wear their robes, but they're always like messy and unkept. And then in the fourth one, they're in like jeans and sweatshirts most of the time. So this one, I like that they're back in the. They do have a couple scenes where they're not, like they're wearing sweatshirts when in the common area, but when they're walking the grounds of Hogwarts. Also, I don't know if you felt the same way, but this scene when they're like, Hagrid's back, I didn't realize he was gone.
I don't think I did either, actually.
I hadn't realized he hadn't been in the movie yet until they said that, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Hagrid hasn't been in this yet.
No, I don't have too many more notes. Big takeaways from this is, I love that they brought Gary Oldman back because you get none of him in the fourth, so it's finally you have some scenes where they actually build his relationship with Harry. The family tree scene is great. Bellatrix, I mean, I can't say enough good things about her. And Ralph Fiennes still continues this kind of dominance on the screen when he's in there, and when he's even if it's brief, like just him and Dumbledore, I think they both just have such a commanding presence. So I think that's the whole scene is just done like flawlessly, I think.
Couldn't agree more on a lot of those fronts. I do think this movie has some issues. I do think it's interesting, and they don't highlight it in the movies, but I know it's in the books more. But Voldemort hates being called Tom, and so I love when Dumbledore shows up. He says, "You made a mistake here coming tonight, Tom." Yeah, it's great. I also do. We didn't mention it, but when Voldemort and Dumbledore are battling, Harry's still kind of standing a couple feet, and Dumbledore just like force pushes him out of the way. He's just like sit down. I always enjoy that little bit. I like this movie. I don't think it is my second favorite as it used to be. I think now these days I'd probably lean more towards Sorcerer's Stone as being my preferred of the two. This movie is one that I think more general audiences would probably like, and more adults, because it is more action oriented and there's more action set pieces, and it's not as child friendly, and there's just a little bit more in terms of like adult themes. But I don't know, again, I have such a soft spot for that first one, and
that emotional grab it has on you is just
it does, and it's just that whimsical feel, and maybe this is me being blinded, but I think it's just a better handled movie. Again, I love the second half of this movie. I just think a lot of the first half kind of is slow. There are some scenes I like, but again, I think the lack of not having a main narrative that's driving the plot, I think it does hinder the film. But unless you have any more to say, should we get to scores?
I'm ready for scores. Do you want me to start with 3? I think I did 1, and then you did 2 last episode, so I could just
all right. So
I could just do the odds, I guess.
All right, you start with 3.
So 3, it's gonna be an 8.3 for me.
All right, that's a good score. I am giving Prisoner of Azkaban, not Azkaban. There's only one. I'm giving it an 8.9 out of 10. I
still sticking with that 8.9, huh?
I fucking love that movie. It's the only Harry Potter movie I have in my top 100 movies. I enjoy it. It's I could watch it again right now, and just you have to understand my mental state when watching this movie. I had the worst shift. My legs were in so much pain. I was so tired, and it was so late, and all I wanted to do was go to bed. And I was like, I have to watch this movie because I'm not gonna have enough time to watch the other two then. And the joy that this movie brought me. The joy that this movie brought me.
That is horse shit. If you watch this movie on a normal day, this would have been like an 8.5.
You know why? Because when I made my point about watching movies at certain times when I was talking about Chamber of Secrets, the fact that I was able to watch this movie at being so exhausted, and the movie woke me up because of how good it was.
Here's my thing. If it's able to just make you enjoy it, the fact that you watch it after a shift can make you elevate the score higher or lower. Whereas, like, if you watch Chamber of Secrets on a Saturday that you had nothing to do, and this movie on a Saturday you had nothing to do, I remember your score would be a 6 for Chamber. I bet it would have been a 6.5.
No,
and this would have been an 8.5.
Are you kidding me? If I had to sit through a fucking 2-hour and 40-minute slog fest that is Chamber of Secrets after a 12-hour shift, I would have fucking hung myself. Are you kidding me?
I thought you did watch it after a shift.
A normal shift, yeah.
Oh, like, yeah.
A normal shift. So I was still late. It was so late when I finished this movie, and the fact that I was in such a bad mental state and just wanted to do anything but watch a movie at this point, and I still could just not do it. All I could do was just admire how well crafted the movie was.
All I'm saying is, if it didn't have that factor, I think it would be slightly lower than an 8.9.
I don't think so. I think it would have been higher. I think it might have been a 9. If I watched this and had more mental capacity at the time.
That's crazy, because like we could still find issues with this movie, and you just completely disregard them because you just enjoy this movie.
But I don't think it's crazy to easy there, man. I'm like 0.5 higher than you.
Yeah, but I'm like a pretty avid Harry Potter fan.
I know, and that's why people should take my opinion on this movie even more seriously, because I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, and I fucking think this movie is maybe one of the best fantasy movies ever made. Like, I'm not saying it's as good as
cinematography. That's why, because it has great cinematography.
No, it's not just. Okay, you go back when this is released. You go back and you listen to this episode. I highlighted the blocking. You highlighted the blocking. The performances. Yeah. Again, the only reason that, not the only reason, but the main driving force of the Shrieking Shack scene is 3 fucking veteran amazing actors just acting their asses off.
Perhaps you should listen to this episode again, because I believe that there was at least 5 times where I said something about the script and you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Oh shit.
Yeah. But no, I think where this movie falls flat a little bit in certain script areas, usually just in like logical consistencies, and you're gonna have that with any time travel story. Whereas a movie like Chamber of Secrets, I think the script issues just genuinely drag down the film, and trust me, if it wasn't for those script issues, Josh, like you're acting like those don't impact the score. I wrote in my notes, not in my notes, my Letterboxd.
Don't even say it.
My Letterboxd review is, if this movie didn't have some illogical plot issues, then this would be a 9 out of 10.
Oh, well, okay. A 0.1 difference?
It'd be, yeah.
That's it. That's all.
You're right. This would be a 9.5 out of 10.
I thought you were gonna say a 10.
This is a 10 on an enjoyment level.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
I enjoy this so much. I would watch this any day of the week. Anyway, it's my turn to go first. I am going to give Goblet of Fire a 5 out of 10. It's a dumb movie. I hate it. It's boring. It makes me cringe. There's a couple fun scenes when they're doing the challenges, but yeah, Ralph Fiennes is good. But I didn't enjoy this, and like I think like other than my enjoyment factor, I think we both pointed out plenty of flaws in the filmmaking and the script. So it's not just because I don't enjoy it. I think actually I may be giving this movie a little bit too much credit. But no, 5 out of 10. It should be lucky it's not lower.
This might be a little high for Jake that I'm going to give this movie. I am going with a 6.5 out of 10.
No, I expected you to give it a 6.
Okay.
Because I know you don't rate. I don't think you give any of these anything lower than a 6.
No.
Yeah. So no. If you were about to say 7, I think I would have just ended the.
No, let me tell you though. Before watching this again,
yeah,
this movie in my head was in the 7s.
Wait, I think Ross has this rated higher than Prisoner.
No. I think he thinks this is the worst one.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, you absolute lunatic. Sorry, I just saw your Letterboxd score for Order of the Phoenix. It got spoiled for me. You lunatic.
No, because I know what you're thinking. You think my 4 stars are automatic 8s. I have wiggle room.
he's got a little wiggle room.
My 4 stars are 7.5 to 8.4. That's my 4-star rating.
Nah, all right.
You don't know where I'm going to swipe, but I guess that means I'll start off this,
yeah, you could start Order
of the Phoenix. I have Order of the Phoenix at a... Where did it go? 7.8.
That's still too fucking high. I'm giving Order
Actually,
of the...
you said so many positive things about the movie.
I also said a lot of negative.
No, you said it was slightly boring before they get to the room requirement, and Cho Chang could be cut out. That's pretty much it.
Order of the Phoenix is getting a 6 out of 10.
That's crazy.
I'm just kidding. It's getting a 6.5 because it is better than Chamber.
All right, that's still low.
I think it's pretty high, actually.
Oh, that's half a point higher than Chamber. You were actively hating Chamber. This re-listen to this. You were loving so many things about this movie.
In reality, the second half of this movie is an 8 out of 10, and the first half is a 5 out of 10. So I landed at a 6.5. Yes way.
You even said you liked the opening scene. You liked the setup for it.
It's fine. I think it. Yeah, Dolores is great, but I don't know. One character does not make the first half not boring.
No, Harry's good too.
He's just having PTSD. It's kind of depressing.
Whatever.
It's a fine movie. I don't know. It's not I don't know. It's not for me. It's not my cup of tea.
I'm going to send you video essays on positive things people say about these movies. Maybe that'll help.
That's fine. People can love these movies. You know what? People also love the Transformers movies.
Maybe it'll help you open your eyes.
Okay, no way. Oh, okay, never mind. I was crazy for a second. Letterboxd really boils my blood. Is that all 3? We rated all 3?
Yep.
Right. So I think 5 out of 10 for Goblet. That's definitely the lowest score that's been given on this Harry Potter series so far.
Sure is.
But all right, guys, we definitely overstayed our welcome, which on the edit, this will probably get trimmed down. It most likely will get trimmed down.
Holy shit.
We need to whittle it down. But I had a really good time talking about these 3 Harry Potter movies with you. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. As always, you can find this podcast anywhere that you get your podcast, that being Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube. For me personally, if you like hearing us on YouTube, you're listening on my personal YouTube channel, Former Film Student, where I do movie and TV related content. So if you want to hear me talk about more of that stuff, then definitely subscribe there, or also just give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also leave a review. It definitely helps out if you guys give us a 5-star review, or if you want to be a little mean, you can give us 4 stars, but whatever. We'll take the constructive criticism. But yeah, that's really it for me. No real reason to recommend the next episodes because we're just going to be concluding the Harry Potter series, talking about Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. But that's really it on my end.
Yeah. Again, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed and had fun with this episode. I know it was long, but honestly, give us a follow on Instagram. That's where we mainly are. Franchise Deep Dive, and DM us there or send us an email at franchisedeepdive@gmail.com. And feel free to give us either of us a follow. But again, any criticism we will take.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
or good or bad. But holy hell, this was long.
It was. Honestly, it didn't feel long, while talking about it, but for me at least. But
that's the problem. Yeah,
I know. Just flies by. Man. It'll get trimmed. But Josh, got one last little thing for you.
What you got for me?
I just want to say, I love telling dad jokes. Sometimes he even laughs.
That stinks. That stinks.
I love that. I love that one. That one caught my eye. But anyway, guys, yeah, thank you for listening for however long this ends up being. If you want to come at me for my Goblet of Fire opinions, I'll post my address. You can square up and I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, guys. Yeah, I enjoyed talking about these movies, and can't wait to talk about Half-Blood Prince. I feel like I have hot takes about that movie, so we'll get to that. All on the next episode of Franchise Deep Dive with Jake and Josh. All right, that's it for me. Goodbye.
Later, guys.